This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN. Now, live inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, here's Mike Gill.
Sanders comes back to the left of Hurts.
Oh, this is razzle-dazzle.
This time, it's a razzle-dazzle. Rolling with the football is Greg Ward. He's looking, and he throws incomplete. They reversed it to Greg Ward, the former Houston quarterback, and he was going to try to throw to Hurts at the base of the end zone, but it didn't work because the 49ers had it well covered.
You heard it here yesterday on 97.3 ESPN. Merrill Reese and Mike Quick. Mike Quick knew it right away. This is razzle-dazzle, and the razzle-dazzle didn't work. And a lot didn't work yesterday for the Philadelphia Eagles. We will dive into it, of course, today here on the Sports Bash. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Henning is producing today's show. You out there as we get you ready for what will be an interesting day after reaction. We know a lot of people out there are already chomping at the bit to react to a probably defined as an ugly game yesterday. 17-11 is one of those games that is kind of like, yeah. Offense just didn't have it yesterday. I thought Nick Sirianni had a rough day at the office. For as much as he got praised for the way that he, utilized, accentuated the positives, utilized his talent the right way in week number 1, I thought he got a little cute in week number 2. And Nick Sirianni did not have a good game yesterday. I thought the game plan was pretty bad, to be honest with you, and that play there got a little too cute. He tried to, throw in a little razzle-dazzle on the goal line there. They had the 91-yard pass to Quez Watkins, and unfortunately, that was really a game changer. I mean, they could not get in there. They couldn't get any points because on 4th down, they end up going for it, and they try that version of the Philly special play that Greg Ward, Greg Ward's on the field for one reason. When Greg Ward checks into the game, look, Greg Ward just doesn't have a role in this offense anymore. He's just really not a big part of this offense right now. So when he checks into the game, ultimately something's probably up. Keep your eye on Ward, and there goes Ward. He gets the pitch, and, the whole series down there, if you go back and look through those plays, all of the play calls in that whole series for the Philadelphia Eagles, they were all terrible play designs. So you could say they were bad play calls. Some of them, let's talk about the Philly special play that they run. It's not even that the play call is that horrendous. It's if you watch the play, they didn't have anybody they had nobody out running a route. Like Jalen Hurts didn't even know what he was supposed to be doing. It's not like he didn't really run a route. If you watch Jalen Hurts, he just kind of didn't know what to do. So they absolutely bungled that situation. They throw the 91-yard pass to Watkins. They're at 1st and goal at the 6-yard line. And then all of a sudden, you have the short, pass to Gainwell that didn't go anywhere. You had a pass interference that's called against the 49ers that now bring you up to the 1-yard line. So you had 2 plays. You had the pass to Gainwell that didn't do anything. Actually, you had the one play because you had the interference, and then the interference play came into play. And then 1st and goal at the 1, they try to throw a pass to Ertz. Ertz is the only guy out on the play. There was no other option on the play. It was just Hurts. To Ertz, And then on 2nd down, they try a sweep with Miles Sanders, and they lose yardage on that. And then Hurts tries to throw out of bounds, and then, of course, the Greg Ward play. All 4 of those plays I thought were just poor play design. And Sirianni he took the blame after the game. Good for him. He said, look, I need to call better plays down there. Now, we've heard that before. Andy Reid, better job. Got to do a better job. We all hate hearing the better job thing. But the way that he said it yesterday, Nick Sirianni, look, this is a learning experience for him. He's calling plays for the first time ever. And he said, basically, I have to be honest with you. I thought, it's my fault. He said, it's my fault. Those were his words. It was my fault. I didn't call good enough plays right there. I didn't put the players in good enough positions. It's a learning curve for all these guys. You got a lot of young players on this team. And you got a lot of young players. A lot of them made mistakes. Jalen Reagor made a mistake. He gets pushed out of bounds. It's a savvy play by the defensive back. Knew where he was. He used that sideline as a defender and just kind of pushed him out of bounds. Well, you know what ended up happening on that? The touchdown gets called back for Reagor, and then I believe, if memory serves, that is the play that is the blocked field goal. So the Eagles had 2 opportunities to put 6 on the board, right? You had 2 opportunities to put 6 points on the board. You could have had 14 points with the extra points. The Eagles essentially could have been up 17-0 in that game before the 49ers got on the board, because if you remember, the Eagles scored first. They kicked the field goal to go up 3-0. They then had the blocked field goal that was a touchdown to Reagor that got off the board, and then they turned the ball over on downs down on the 1-yard line. So they essentially could have been up 17-0 in that game had they basically had a couple of things go their way. Now, that being said, the 49ers are a very good team. So do you take negative? Do you look at this game as a negative, or do you look at this game as a positive? I think you can kind of look at it both ways. It was very frustrating. It was certainly a very frustrating outcome because that was a bad loss. It was a very winnable game. You can't win NFL games completing 12 passes. That won't work. So the Eagles' offense, I thought, was a problem. I thought Sirianni just did not call a very good game. I thought he got a little too cute. I thought he really, in week number 1, what was the narrative? Well, they won, but they didn't take any shots down the field. I felt like every pass they threw was down the field. What did Sal Pal say on Friday's show? Big day for the tight ends. Ertz and Goddard should have a big day. They weren't really involved at all. So you absolutely should take some positives from the game, but there were some negatives. And if you're looking at this team and trying to figure out who they are, you saw the 2 sides of the coin. The Atlanta Falcons, not a very good team, and the Eagles do have talent. Their talent outshined a bad Atlanta team, and they really, this is a young team, and young teams build confidence when things go right. And when things don't go right, young teams sometimes struggle to get out of that. Well, you had some adversity in that game. Derrick Barnett, again, with just a dumb penalty. And that penalty changes the game another way, too, because then Kayvon Wallace gets a penalty on the very next play. So instead of the Eagles having the ball, the 49ers having the ball back on their own 23-yard line, they got 30 yards in penalties. And you know what ends up happening on that drive? They kicked the field goal and made it 17-3 with 5 minutes left in the game. So you're essentially back to the wall with 5 minutes left, down 2 scores in that game. But that could have been, a 17-3. That could have been a 14-3 game. You punt it away. The Eagles end up scoring. It could have been 14-11, and that's a whole different can of worms. So the 2 penalties absolutely played a factor. The mental mistake of Reagor stepping on the end line, that plays a factor, on the out-of-bounds lines, I should say, sorry. And then Sirianni, I thought, just did not have a very good day calling plays in key situations. You look back at the offense, the Eagles out-yardaged the 49ers. They had 328 total yards to 306 total yards. The Eagles ran the ball very well. They ran for 5.2 yards per carry. They ran the ball 29 times for 5.2 yards. They had 151 rushing yards. So it's not one of those days where Sirianni he overthrew the ball. They ran the ball more than they threw the ball yesterday. I thought the biggest issue in the game was I just thought they took too many shots down the field. Go with what was working. Just because everybody's saying you need to take more shots down the field, take more shots down the field when necessary. It wasn't necessary to take all the shots down the field. You took a shot with Watkins and you hit. They didn't do anything in the middle of the field. Your two tight ends were just essentially not a part of the game plan yesterday. Those two guys, make no mistake about it, Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert are still the two best weapons this team has. Devonta Smith will be at certain times. Quez Watkins will have his moments. Rager will have his moments. But the old faithfuls on this team are Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert, and they needed to be the big factor in this game yesterday, not the young players. If you want to beat a tough team like the San Francisco 49ers, right? If you want to beat up or you got to do a fist fight with a tough team in the San Francisco 49ers. And guess what? The Eagles went toe-to-toe with them. They stepped up. Yeah, they got a couple of bruises on their face. They left that fight looking like they got into a fight, but you got to give them credit. They hung in there with the San Francisco 49ers. That being said, that was a winnable game. And that is why I think today you have to look at how can they learn from that game and what can they take from that game. Well, if I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm looking back at that game tape and saying, man, I really did not give my team the best chance to win. Man, I really did not put my players in the best position to win that football game. And you had a winnable game in your building on a Sunday. That being said, you leave a little encouraged by thinking the defense played a really good game. I thought the defense was excellent again. I thought the defense was really active. I thought they did a really good job. I mean, they did a great job against the run. They only gave up 3 yards a carry. That's number one. Number two, George Kittle had 4 catches for 17 yards. The linebackers showed that they can handle and played a really good game against the run and against the best tight end in football. They didn't give up the big play. So you can hang your hat that this defense is certainly going to keep you in some games. Now, that being said, the obvious news that was crushing yesterday is that Brandon Graham is going to miss the rest of the year. It is not confirmed, but it is confirmed. I mean, Brandon Graham tweeted out last night. The team hasn't yet announced that Brandon Graham is done for the season, but Brandon Graham did tweet out last night that he will be on the sidelines for the rest of the season. So it appears that he has a Achilles tear, and I would think that for Brandon Graham, who's 33 years old, an Achilles tear, that is a tough one at that age to come back from and be the same level of player. They just gave him an extension, if you remember. I think they did something with his contract to kind of circumvent the salary cap problems that they were having. So they did it. They gave Graham another season next year. This was supposed to be his last season. They extended him for another year, and he will make $20 million over the next 2 seasons, this one and next year. So you're going to have Brandon Graham at 34 years old next year getting paid a lot of money, and he's coming off an Achilles injury. It's unfortunate. He's the heart and soul of this team, and quite frankly, I don't know how they replace him. You're going to have to see a lot of Ryan Kerrigan. I guess that means more snaps now for Josh Sweat. I would imagine you're going to see, younger players get some work. Who's the draft pick that they took? Teron Johnson? Was that the kid they took from Teron Jackson? Patrick Johnson's the other guy. Teron Jackson. He's a guy that might get some more playing time now. Josh Sweat only got 40% of the snaps yesterday. Maybe that goes up a little bit. You might see a little bit of Milton Williams get some more defensive end repetitions. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just have to get creative. Look at what Dallas did the other day. They were down a pass rusher. They took their middle linebacker in Micah Parsons and said, go play defensive end. I think that worked out pretty well for them. So the Eagles might have to get creative with this thing. Jannard Avery, hey, maybe you got to get more snaps as a true defensive end. Ryan Kerrigan, we're going to have to up your workload. But you're not replacing Brandon Graham. It's just not happening. He's the heart and soul of this team. He's one of the best run stuffers in football. And, of course, he's very good at getting to the quarterback. That's a huge loss. The other loss, I don't know where that stands right now. But Brandon Brooks. The one thing we have preached all season long is that if the Eagles' offensive line can stay healthy, they have a shot. Well, one game in, they had a healthy offensive line. They won that game. Second game in, they didn't get through the first quarter of that game before Brandon Brooks had to walk off the field with an injury. He did not return, and there is no word on where he is. We should hear something from Nick Sirianni maybe coming up in just a couple of minutes here. But this is why you drafted Landon Dickerson in the second round. This is why people are like, why'd you take a guy in the second round? Well, this is why right here. You have an aging offensive line that has some injury issues. And already it's unfortunate to say because Brandon Brooks is one of the best right guards in football. Unfortunately, he has had injury issues. And I feel bad for this guy because the guy has torn his Achilles twice and came back from them, and his play never dipped. And then he goes out there, and it appears that he has possibly a torn pec or a strained pec. Either way, I would assume that he will miss some time. You would assume if it's a strained pec, he's probably going to miss at least half the season. And if it's a torn pec, he would be done for the entire season. And then you know what that means? You're throwing Landon Dickerson basically right into the fire. Either him or Nate Herbig. I mean, yesterday they went right to Dickerson. Now, keep in mind, Dickerson, people weren't even sure if he was ready or healthy enough to even appear in a game. I thought he went out there, struggled a little early. I was watching and zoning in on him early in the contest. Lane Johnson talked about it after the game. He said, yeah, I mean, he struggled a little bit. I mean, Lane Johnson essentially said he thought losing Brandon Brooks, I mean, literally came out and said, I think Brandon Brooks being out maybe was the difference between winning and losing this game. There's so much to unpack from this game because it's just such a myriad of emotions, you know, like wanting to win the game, having a chance to beat a good 49ers team, coming up short, trying to see if there's actual positives from this, or do you say, no, I'm not letting you off the hook just because you're a young team with a first-year head coach and a young quarterback. I look at it at both angles here. I thought the defense gave them a shot to win. They just didn't make a play, and I don't think the coach helped them make a play. That's the biggest problem there. Jalen Hurts, I thought, could have played a better game yesterday. He wasn't awful. His stats would suggest he wasn't all that good. 12 of 23. It's about 50%. I mean, just under, over 50%. But he's got he had a couple of chances to make plays with his feet, and he did. He had 82 yards rushing. He took what the defense gave him yesterday. I just don't think the head coach put his quarterback or his players in the best position to win that game, and that's what's frustrating because Nick Sirianni, I think, has a lot of positives. There's a lot of positives with Nick Sirianni. Yesterday was not a good day for him. It was not a good day, flat out. 609-403-0973. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. Hit us up through the free mobile app. Download the mobile app, and you can message us on your phone. And you're going to want to get the mobile app because starting right now, today, you can win a spot in this year's LPGA Pro-Am. Go to our website, 973ESPN.com. If you would like to enter to play golf with Pete Thompson, a LPGA Pro, and me, I'm not very good, so I need someone out there that can actually play golf. We want you to be a part of our foursome on September the 29th. Go to our website, 973ESPN.com, right now to find out how you can enter to be the fourth member of our foursome for this year's LPGA Pro-Am. It's an unbelievable experience. You get to play with an LPGA Pro, not to mention you get a pretty cool prize just for playing in the event. And you get to play on a really nice course, and you get to play with the PT and I. PT's pretty good. I stink, but we always have a good time. All right, so let's get the particulars out of the way. Mike, over to the text board. I want to read off a couple text messages. Air it out. Air it out today. Are you frustrated? Are you not frustrated because, hey, San Francisco was favored, you hung in the game? What is your initial emotion following that loss? I got to be honest with you. At first, I was so angry, not angry at the team, just angry that it was a missed opportunity. God, I hate a missed opportunity. And the Eagles should have been up 17-0 in that game. They could have been up 17-0 in that game. I thought the defense, when you have a defense that plays and gives up under 20 at home, God, that's a game you need to win. Couple text messages. Mike, with the Eagles' expectation, it has to be a positive. We weren't expected to be in that game. I was surprised how easily we could have won. Learning lesson moving forward, we can compete with the top teams in the NFC, period. Defense has been great. Offensive line has been great. Yeah, there's a lot of good points in that one. I like that was a very positive feeling text to start things off on this Monday after. The Sports Bash is live here on 97.3 ESPN. So we'll open up the text board. That'll be open for the remainder of the show. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Text me your reaction to the Eagles' loss. Positive, negative, your emotion is what? Download the free mobile app, and you can message us through your phone. And if you're watching the show live, hit me up on the video stream. I see a lot of people on the video stream already, and I'm going to get to your messages all throughout the day. A lot of two-way conversation between me and you. The Sports Bash is live on 97.3 ESPN, your home for Eagles and Cowboys next Monday night right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, let's start it all off with your text messages on the other side. Mike McGarry's weekend reactions, Grayson's grades, football at 4. One thought every game, Casey Joyner, 5 o'clock tonight. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. All right, 226 on a Monday. Tech Sport is open, 609-403-0973. Download the free mobile app, and you can message us through the app like Cole in Atlantic City. He says, Mike, far too often we overemphasize and put too much of the focus on the quarterback and the coach, but this week it's warranted. Play calling in big spots was dreadful, not taking points again to run a reverse pass to the quarterback, and one wide receiver route is about as bad as it gets. Defensively, we never adjusted to the short yardage quarterback sneak, essentially letting them go 5 for 5 on the same play on 3rd and 1. 2 90-plus yard drives can't happen, especially before the end of the half. Yeah, that one before the half was a killer. Last week, I mentioned Hurts would need to complete balls down the field to win. He constantly underthrew his receivers all day. Only 4 tight end targets, holding the ball when guys are open. I thought he struggled pretty bad yesterday. One last point. It's now becoming obvious that both Rieger and Smith must get stronger. They both get pushed around by DBs regularly and have yet to make a contested catch. That is a problem that likely lasts all season. Neither has Djax game speed, so they got to make catches while covered, or it's going to become increasingly difficult for us to move the ball. The young players looked young this week. That's from Cole in Atlantic City. That was a lot there, and I appreciate the text. There's a lot of great points in the text message. You know, Smith and Rieger are both guys who need to get the ball in space. And, yes, they need to be able to make the contested catch. I think Smith will be able to do that. Rieger, I don't think so. I don't think Rieger is a polished, go get the ball at the point of attack kind of guy. And if that's the case, you got to do more with what you did with him in week 1. They took too many shots down the field with these guys trying to get one-on-one separation. Gone was the bubble screen that we saw them use in the preseason against Pittsburgh with Watkins. They used it last week in the game against Atlanta. We didn't see the bubble screen at all. We didn't see anything to the tight ends over the middle. I think the message from the mobile app talked about only 4 passes to the tight ends, 4 targets to the tight ends. Big time, to me, missed opportunity was to get Ertz and Goddard. The one pass you threw to Goddard, I mean, he almost scored. You got to attack the middle of the field with those 2 players. With all these young players, you need to stick with your veteran guys, and then I don't want to say the element of surprise, but give those younger guys more confidence. Don't lean on the young guys. Utilize them in areas where they can have optimum confidence in that we're moving the ball, and then we're going to go to you. Not using Ertz and not using Goddard all day long. I just kept saying, where the hell are Ertz and Goddard, man? Especially down in the red zone. Now, they did take the shot to Ertz on the one play. The problem was Ertz was the only guy that ran a pattern on the damn play call. So I didn't like the play design by Nick Sirianni. Over on the text board, 609-403-0973. Tom from the Villa says, Mike, that was purely a coaching loss, plain and simple. Slick Nick trying to be slick. As the game went on, they relied too heavily on the front 4 to get pressure. In my opinion, as I said, a pure coaching loss. I think the coach is at one of the top of the list. You know, there's a lot of other factors. Jalen Reagor steps out of bounds. I mean, that's not the coach. That's the player not knowing and recognizing where he is on the field. The 2 penalties, Derrick Barnett and Kayvon Wallace. Now, you can argue all you want about the Wallace call, but those were 30 yards in penalties that really sealed that game. You know, Wallace, if you go back and watch Wallace's college tape, go watch Wallace play at Clemson. He is perpetual for putting his head down. Just go to Twitter, type in Kayvon Wallace's name, as I did yesterday. And you could see video of him. He's a good tackler, but he's not a safe tackler. There's no question about it. Wallace is very apt to putting that head down and putting that helmet down. Now, I don't love the call, but in this situation, it's not out of the ordinary for him to lead with his helmet like that if you go back and watch his Clemson tape. Mike Hurts threw for 190 and 91 on one play. That means less than 100 yards for the game minus one play. It's not acceptable. Todd and Brigantine. Yeah, I mean, I thought, obviously, They took too many shots down the field for my liking. Last week, they didn't take enough shots down the field for some people. It didn't matter last week. You didn't have to. This week, I think they said, oh, they watched us last week. Everything was short. Now let's try to catch them off guard and go long. Didn't work. And that's where you have to make the adjustments. 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973 is the text board. If you want to download the free mobile app, you can message us through the app. Let's see what some of the people on the video are saying. Jalen says, a bit surprised at the amount of Jalen Hurts hate and overreaction today. He made some mistakes yesterday, but so did the entire team, offense, defense, special teams. I think that I would say I don't think Hurts was horrible. I don't think he was great. I just don't think Nick Sirianni trusted Hurts enough yesterday. Or I don't want to say he didn't trust him enough because he kept taking shots down the field with him. I would say he just didn't utilize his strengths enough. There were so many missed opportunities in that game. So many missed opportunities in that game. Uzi Wolf is watching on YouTube. Mike, that was a painful loss. You need 1 yard. I know it's a rebuild year and such, but come on. Been on the Sirianni train since literally the announcement, but I admit he lost the game. Yeah, I think if you're ranking the people, the particulars, I think that Nick Sirianni's game plan was not great yesterday. It was not a good game plan yesterday. And the thing that stinks about this is, you have a winnable game at home and you lose that game. Now you're playing a division game on the road, followed by Kansas City. This Carolina team has looked a lot better. They're very good defensively, and Tampa Bay. The Vegas Raiders look a lot better than we thought entering the season. You have 5 games in a row where you could potentially be an underdog. Can you sneak 2 of those 5? You're going to need to. And then you've got Detroit, a winnable game. The Chargers, who are a scrappy team. Denver's a scrappy team. The Saints, I don't know what to think about them. The Giants and Jets, both not very good. Washington, not very good. New York, not very good. Washington again, and then Dallas. So that was a winnable game that you thought you could have gotten. You could have snuck that game out. 609-403-0973. Some more text message. The 8-ball checking in says, not frustrated. 2 good defenses, just missed opportunities killed us. Yeah, the missed opportunities is what's frustrating because when you have a home game, missed opportunities need to be converted. That's all. A couple other messages over on the video screen. Yes, Michael Lenhard. Yes, thank you for bringing this up. I brought this up earlier today to someone I was talking to in the building. Mike, did you happen to notice the play clock ran out right before the quarterback sneak that sealed the deal for the 49ers? Being picky, but did run out. Refs were bad. First off, the refs are bad every week in every single game all across the NFL. Here's the problem I have. They're going to miss holding calls in this call and that call. You can't miss those calls. Can't miss a call that's blatant that the play clock runs out. That call there, you're right, Michael, that pushes them back 5 yards. It's now 3rd down and 6. If they don't convert that, Philadelphia essentially gets the ball back down 17-11 with plenty of time to move the ball. So, Michael, you're right. That play did play a factor. Michael, good text from you. Jeff Adams, where's Jordan Howard, especially inside the 10? Yeah, I think the Howard thing's going to start coming up in the short yardage situation. I don't know if Boston Scott is active on game day, but there's no reason to have him active if he's not going to get any snaps. I mean, it's just that simple. If he's not going to be a part of the offense, they might have to go to Jordan Howard. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, brought to you by Matt Blatt Nissan. The all-new Matt Blatt Nissan now open Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, next to Home Depot. Online, mattblattnissan.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Don't forget, download the free mobile app, take the show on the go, and you can enter to play golf with Pete Thompson and I, plus an LPGA professional in this year's LPGA Pro-Am, Wednesday the 29th. If you'd like to play with Pete and I, go to our website right now, 973ESPN.com, and enter to win. You'll see the link right on the website. Easy to do. Click on the link and it'll give you all the directions you need to do. It's not really all that hard. The directions aren't very lengthy. You just need a little bit of information, like your name. If you want to play, we're going to have to know your name. Just go to our website right now, 973ESPN.com. All right, the weekend reactions from Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. He's standing by, and he joins me next here on the Sports Bash. $241 Sports Bash Monday. I'm Mike Gill, at Mike Gill Show on Twitter. Download the free mobile app. You can play golf with Pete Thompson and I at this year's Pro-Am. No, I stink. McGarry, how are you on the golf course? You any good? Do you play a lot?
I haven't played golf in about something had to go in my life and golf went.
Were you good at any point?
I could shoot in the 90s at one point, but I just could not spend 5 hours on a Sunday or a Saturday out on the golf course. So I had to jettison something from my life and golf went, basically.
All right, well, if you want to play with Pete and I, not you, Mike, because if you're not any good, I don't want you to be on my team.
Exactly.
If you're out there listening and you want to play with Pete and I, you can enter right now. Go to 973ESPN.com and get your entry in. We'll draw the winner on Friday's show during Happy Hour Friday with Pete Thompson at 4:40. All right, weekend reactions. Mike McGarry, let's start with the Eagles' loss yesterday. Missed opportunity or simply not a good team?
Not a good team. Lost to a better team. Let's put it to you this way. I think the 49ers are pretty good, and they kind of methodically impose their will on the Eagles, especially from that, mid-second quarter on. A game I did not expect the Eagles to win, and they came up short. And again, we talk week to week in the NFL, right? Last week was a bad week for guys like me who picked them to be 5-12, and a good week for people who said 10-11 wins. Well, yesterday I looked a little smarter, and the 10-11 win people looked like they were out over their skis a little bit, basically.
Okay, but still, when you watch that, you feel like missed opportunities. That's a winnable game. That's what leaves you frustrated. Like, you understand it's a young team and yada, yada, but still a winnable game. So is there stuff to build off for that, or long season ahead?
I think long season ahead. You look at the NFL, all these games are winnable games. You can make an argument that the Falcons from the opening week are kicking themselves because they drove inside the 5-yard line twice and came away with 6 points. They could say, hey, if we had just gotten 2 touchdowns against the Eagles, maybe that game would have worked out differently. We talked about the Giants last Saturday, right? Or last Friday. Winnable opportunities there. That's life in the NFL. Good teams take advantage of those opportunities. Bad teams don't.
Yeah, I know yesterday Nick Sirianni took a lot of the blame. I mean, there was a good possibility they could have been up 17-0 in that game had the couple things gone a little differently. The Philly special play that they run, awful play design. They didn't have anybody out in the pattern. Nobody. It's that, right. And then Reagor steps out of bounds. If he can stay in bounds, they're up 17-0 there, and we might have a different conversation today.
Yeah, the impression that I'm getting from Sirianni is just that, and I like a lot of the stuff he's done. I like his enthusiasm, but he's almost trying too hard to me, right? He shows up to a press conference wearing Phillies gear. He's got the Iverson T-shirt on before yesterday's game. He calls a poor man's Philly special. He's just, you want to get in Eagles fans' good graces, just win some games. Yeah. Leave the wardrobe aside. He just seems to be trying too hard, and the play calling after the 91-yard completion of Watkins was shaky at best, and the poor man's Philly special, was the coup de grace on a poor series, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's not even so much the play call; the play design was terrible. There was nobody out on the route. The one route with Ertz, he was the only guy out there. I mean, all 4 of the play calls were really just bad designs. There was not a lot of options on any of them.
Right, and I think he's the type of guy that he'll fix that. But one of the reasons I sort of picked the Eagles to win 5 games this year is I thought the rookie coaching staff would have their share of growing pains. And I think yesterday you look at some of those play designs and play calls where you're exactly right. They had one receiver out in the pattern on the Philly special play and a play earlier in that. I think those are growing pains that a first-year coaching staff is going to have. I mean, I'm sure he'll correct those mistakes, but they were going to have some issues with the coaching staff, and I think it showed yesterday.
Yeah, I know a lot of times you talk about trying to be the smartest guy in the room, and maybe that's something that Sirianni got caught up into a little bit yesterday, was trying to outsmart everybody. Because what happened week 1, Mike? Well, they didn't take any shots down the field. Well, they didn't really need to. Well, yesterday it was almost like, well, they said we didn't take any shots last week. This week we'll try to show you that we can throw the ball down the field.
Yeah, and they did throw it successfully, right? They got the 91-yard play, and Rager steps out of bounds and comes back in, so that negates that play. But I think you hit on something there, and it's kind of what I'm getting to with the Ward, with the wearing the Philly shirts and the Iverson shirts and stuff like that. He's just trying too hard at times. You got the ball inside the 5-yard line, just run it, or call some basic plays. You don't have to wow us and score at the same time. We'll be wowed if you score.
And, Mike, they ran the ball for 5.2 yards a carry. Now, a lot of that is aided by Hurts with 8.2 yards per carry. But the strong suit of this team is that offensive line. Let's see that line down inside the 5, push some people around.
Right, but the one factor you've got coming out of yesterday's game is the injuries, and that's another reason why I thought, everybody who had them up around 10, 11 wins said, boy, if that offensive line stays healthy, they're going to be very good. And my position was that offensive line is not staying healthy, and it took to the second game of the season for a key injury to happen on the offense and defensive lines. This is football. Guys get hurt, and that's going to test the depth of a team that, because of its cap situation, does not have a lot of depth.
Yeah, Landon Dickerson, a lot of people said, why in the second round? Well, he was forced into action already yesterday, and it's likely that, we should find out here momentarily. I think I don't know what time Sirianni talks.
I think he's starting right about now, basically.
I thought they used to send out, the list of what time he would talk.
Right.
It used to be noon for every other coach. I guess Sirianni changed the time. I think it's 2:45 now, but we should get some more information. Losing Brandon Graham, though, Mike, I mean, if this team was going to surprise people, you can't – injuries are going to happen, but you can't lose Brandon Graham level of player.
Yeah, I mean, and he's the heart of that team, right? And the defense has really played well so far this season, and it's really been a strong point, and it's going to be tested Monday night in Dallas. So that's, losing him and losing the other Brandon are both big losses for what you thought were going to be the strength of the team, the offensive and defensive lines.
Yeah, so 2 big injuries. We'll see if we get an update on Brandon Brooks. I'm sure that will be one of the first questions as Nick Sirianni is now meeting the media, and we'll see if we get an update on that coming up in just a bit. All right, Mike, so Dallas wins their game, so you got 2 1-1s. You obviously the Giants lose, so you've got 3 1-1s and then the Giants. So is this this game on Monday night coming up all of a sudden becomes kind of intriguing because Philly doesn't play another division game until November the 28th after Monday night.
Right, and this is a big stretch for the Eagles because they want to make sure that November division game actually means something. And to make that mean something, they've got to sort of survive this stretch. The other thing that happened yesterday is you look after week 1, you kind of look at the Eagles' schedule coming up and you say, well, they can go to Las Vegas and win, and they can go to Carolina and win. But now, after what happened yesterday, the Raiders are 2-0. Carolina beats up a New Orleans team that beat up Green Bay last week. So all of a sudden, that looks like a little bit of a tough game. So, and of course, the Chiefs and Tampa Bay are in there also. So, and Dallas. So this is a big 5-game stretch for the Eagles. They want to make sure they've got to go 2-3 during this stretch, or to make sure that those late division games mean something.
That's why you have a home game. On paper, well, you were an underdog, but it was a winnable game in the moment, and you lose that, and now you got to play Dallas, the Chiefs, Carolina, Tampa Bay, and Vegas in a stretch.
Not easy.
Here.
Not easy.
All right, Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City. You talk about a schedule. Well, the Phillies, their schedule lightens up significantly, and we've talked a lot about it, but what's the takeaway from their 2 out of 3 weekend? They were within a game on Saturday. Now, Atlanta won yesterday, and Philadelphia lost last night. But we're running out of time. They've got Baltimore. Atlanta is in Arizona right now. So did they do anything this weekend to make you feel like, this is going to be interesting?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be interesting. Arizona, as you said, Atlanta on the road on the West Coast against Arizona and San Diego. Arizona's a bad team. They play better at home. The Padres are falling apart. Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis going nose-to-nose in the dugout the other night in St. Louis. They've got the same record as the Phillies, 76-73. But the Phillies have the Baltimore Orioles, who are the worst team in baseball, and the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are the second worst team in the National League. And so they've got an opportunity here. The thing I take away, though, from this weekend is just how tough it is to come from behind. The reason we remember 2007 and 7 back with 17 to play. The reason we remember those great comebacks is because they don't happen that often. And you saw this week what happens. One game makes it a lot tougher, right? The Phillies do a good job. They take 2 or 3 from the Mets. The Giants hang on. They get the one game in San Francisco, or Atlanta hangs on, gets the one game in San Francisco. All of a sudden, you're 3 back in the loss column with 13 to play, which is tough. It's really tough to make up ground this time of year. The opportunity is there, but it's tough to accomplish.
Well, Mike, I think we all can agree. If you can't take care of business with Baltimore and Pittsburgh before you play Atlanta, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, you have to go, I would think, 5-2 minimum. Ideal would be 7-0, but I'd take 6 out of 7, but 5-2 on this 7-game stretch minimum. I've always said what you want to do is you want to get to Atlanta a game back of Atlanta. They play Atlanta 3 games next week. Get there a game out.
By the way, Nick Sirianni just said Brandon Brooks is going on the injury reserve, but he is not done for the year. He has a strained pec. He did confirm that Brandon Graham is Achilles, and he is done. So the Brandon Brooks news, I guess, he's out a minimum of 3 weeks or 4? What's the IR? 3 weeks? 3 weeks.
Yeah, but they're 3 big weeks, right? I mean, Dallas, and then it's Tampa, right? And then Carolina, I believe, right?
Dallas, Kansas City.
Dallas,
Carolina, Tampa Bay.
Okay, so 3 weeks. And again, here's what I say all the time when it comes to injuries and professional football teams. I'll believe Brandon Brooks is playing again when I see him on the field. That's the case. I'm not teams. I don't think teams lie. I think they're putting out the best prognosis possible, but injuries are injuries. Look at Zach Eflin in the Phillies. He was supposed to miss 1 or 2 starts and be back. Now he's not going to be back till May. I believe pro athletes are back from injuries when they're actually before my eyes on the field. So,
well, I hear what you're saying. At least it's good to hear that. At least, hopefully, that it is not a
season ending.
Right. Now, Landon Dickerson will likely make his first start on Monday Night Football in Dallas against the Cowboys. It's a strained right pec, according to the coach, not believed to be season-ending there. All right, that's what we got there. Mike McGarry from the Press of Atlantic City, some weekend reactions. Obviously, the high school football was big this weekend. You had a couple of big rivalry matchups that I guess fell flat a little bit.
Yeah, Ocean City goes out in the mainland, wins that game 34-6. St. Augustine tops St. Joe 24-7 and sets up a big week coming up. We've got St. Augustine going to Millville. St. Augustine 3-1, Millville 3-0. That's a big game in Millville on Friday night. And the other takeaway, hey, Ocean City's given up 6 points all year. Cedar Creek, they beat Gammy 55-0. Cedar Creek hasn't given up a point all season long. They're 4-0. That'll be tested when they host Woodrow Wilson on Saturday. So those are your 2 big games kind of coming up this week. St. Augustine, Millville Friday, Cedar Creek, Woodrow Wilson Saturday.
All right, there you go. Big weekend. It was a lot of fun. Of course, the weekend, as always, it moves fast. Week 2 is almost over. Monday Night Football tonight right here on 97.3 ESPN. Lions and Packers. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers has called it quits, or is he on the revenge tour tonight? Listen to that game here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Mike, good to see you, pal.
All right, we'll see you Wednesday. Thanks.
That's Mike McGarry, brought to you by Calvi Electric, now offering residential service for your home and business online at calvielectric.com. They bring Mike McGarry's appearances here on the Sports Bash. I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. I hope that you'll hang around on the other side for Scott Grayson's Grades. Nick Sirianni talking to the media right now. We have some updates from that. As I said, Brandon Brooks strained right pec, not believed to be season ending. It looks like Landon Dickerson will be the starting right guard in the event. Now, he's the guy who played. That doesn't mean that Nate Herbig, maybe. I know that Lane Johnson said Herbie or Dickerson. We'll see who plays this week. I would imagine you're going to see Landon Dickerson out there. He was the second-round pick. They want him out there. All right, Sports Bash live, 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, download the free mobile app right now and enter for a shot to win, to be a part of the foursome in this year's LPGA Pro-Am with Pete Thompson and I, plus an LPGA professional in this year's ShopRite LPGA Pro-Am next Wednesday. All right, 3 o'clock, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, download the free mobile app. And, of course, you can text the show, as always, at 609-403-0973. A Monday edition always features Grayson's Grades. Scott Grayson, 97.3 ESPN.com, and Fox 29. He joins us now with another edition of Grayson's Grades as he's here. And, of course, you can check out Grayson's Grades after every Eagles game over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Scott Grayson, what's going on, man?
Hey, Mike. Good to see you again.
Yeah, man, and a loss this week, so the grade's a little different from last week. The red pen was out a little bit more in week number 2 than we saw in week number 1. The grades are up right now at 97.3 ESPN.com, and let's really start with Nick Sirianni. I really feel like a lot of the fans are kind of pointing the finger at him, and he pointed the finger at himself. So you gave him a C, though. You thought that maybe he wasn't as bad as he even said that he was. C for Nick Sirianni. Explain.
Well, I just thought that things started out okay, and when you grade over the whole 4 quarters, to me, the fact that they started out well, and they really, quite frankly, I thought were kind of dominating the game in the first half up until the last couple seconds of it, really. And, I thought that really I liked his play calls. I liked the fact that he wasn't afraid to take a shot when he was pinned against the end zone. Coaches these days seem like they're just content to run 3 plays and punt as long as they can get past that 5-yard mark when they're in the shadows of their own goalposts. And I like the fact that he had a young quarterback and he wasn't afraid to try to take a shot deep. Went for 91 yards. Unfortunately, not any points off that drive. That I do blame him for. And I felt like that really was a turning point of the game. So when I looked at Sirianni, I felt like, look, early on, I thought he had his team ready to play with the energy of the crowd. They matched it. They moved the ball. They were controlling the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball really early on. And then, as the game evolved, things changed, and he didn't really seem to change with them very well. So the goods, the bads together equaled to me about a C. Again, it's his second game as a head coach, calling all the shots. There were things I didn't like. I did not like the 4th and goal in the first half. Keep putting points on the board, and as long as you're putting points on the board, you're in turn pressuring the opponent. Even though putting a field goal up there would have just made it 6-0, it's another set of points that they have to try to answer instead of what they did, which was gave them momentum by holding them on 4th down and then going down the field and really turning it into a lead going into the locker room. So I didn't like that. I didn't like the play call. Don't run a trick play there. Don't go to the Philly special well again. I mean, what are we doing? And then the fact that there weren't the changes in the second half to really show that they could adapt. What they did well in Atlanta was they changed to what the game was going, and they put the foot on the throats of the Falcons. In this game, I saw no changes really that were working at all, and they weren't even, it looked like, trying to do anything really different. It just started to look stale, and that to me was a big difference from game 1.
All right, now you mentioned that you like the fact that they took some shots down the field. Did you think they took too many shots down the field? In other words, hey, it wasn't work. I thought they didn't utilize Ertz and Goddard enough in this game. I thought the middle of the field was maybe a little bit more open for them. So I thought Sirianni almost outthought. Like, it was almost like, hey, last week we didn't show anything down the field. Well, this week we're going to go over the top all day long. And it was, I felt it was like from one extreme to the next.
I didn't mind the shots down the field, but I agree with you. There wasn't the mix of the intermediate game as well. So it wasn't like there was that part of the game that they had to respect so that something deep could be open down the field. They did hit it with Rager. He stepped out of bounds. They hit it with Quez Watkins. They were trying to hit it with Devontae Smith, maybe 1 or 2 times downfield too far. At times, like once or twice, I did think that Devontae Smith had went through his progressions and he thought it was the best of the worst case scenarios in the sense that everybody was kind of covered. So he took a shot with Devontae Smith, hoping that maybe he would draw a flag. Those flags didn't come in those instances. I wasn't a hater of it, but I did dislike the fact that your tight ends were working well for you last week. The middle of the field does seem to be there with this offense, with the personnel that it has, and they ignored that part of the field. So therefore, you didn't apply that kind of pressure on the 49ers that also then would have helped your running game a little bit as well in the second half. So I agree with you in the sense that the middle was left untouched. But I didn't mind a deep shot here or there, especially when you're playing in front of that home crowd and trying to get them going in a big way.
All right, now let's go to the quarterback. He obviously last week he was the talk of the town was Jalen Hurts. This week didn't play nearly as well. I don't think he was horrible. You gave him a B.
Yeah, look, the biggest thing I want from Jalen Hurts is no turnovers. I also want his legs to be a factor when he needs them to, not to go to that well too often. I was pleased with what he did on the ground. I like the fact that, again, it seemed like he knew when he had to kind of get out of the pocket. There is still a learning curve going on there, and that's to be expected. Overall, I felt like, his completion percentage was not good. You got to complete more passes. You got to complete. And part of that could be, as to your point, too many shots downfield, low percentage completion attempt that didn't turn out to be completed. And therefore, you're back to where you started from the previous down. You got to keep moving the ball down the field. They did a good job of that against Atlanta. They were doing a decent job of that early on. And I thought that they had good control of the line of scrimmage. They had good control of the running game at the time. And I was expecting more play action stuff, quite honestly, and even some RPO stuff to mix in to really keep that San Francisco defense at bay. And they didn't. They got away from all that stuff, quite frankly. And I don't know how much of that was Jalen checking out of plays and how much of that was Nick not calling them. But look, the biggest thing is if Jalen Hurts doesn't turn the ball over, this team will be in every game. I think that should be expected. And then it's up to him to maybe make a play here and there. Again, he did. Jalen Reagor, well-thrown ball. Reagor's got to stay in bounds on that. That touchdown would have been huge. I don't know that game plays out the rest of the way it did if he does. So overall, I think Jalen Hurts showed some good signs of things, but he also showed that he's still a young quarterback, and he's got to work through that.
Yeah, I know that they would have been up. They could have been up 17-0. And if the 4 downs on the 1 yard line, they can't get in. If they get points there, and then the Jalen Reagor happened before San Francisco got on the board, so they could have possibly been up 17-0. Now, this one I'm very surprised with because you gave Jonathan Gannon a D in the game. The defense gives up 17 points. Why a D for Jonathan Gannon?
Two big things are starting to stand out to me with that defense. I like the way, again, the game started. They were in Garoppolo's face. They were blowing up the run. They were winning the line of scrimmage on the defensive line, and all that just went away. And when this team really needed to get the ball back, it really needed to get an opportunity to try to get back in the game, they couldn't get the ball back. That San Francisco drive that lasted 9 minutes or something like that, bridging the third and fourth quarter, was a backbreaker. I thought, to me, that was an opportunity. If you could have gotten off the field somewhere in there, that you could have helped your offense. That could have potentially been an opportunity to steal a win as that game went on. So I was disappointed with the fact that he could not scheme up something to get that defense off the field. Now, part of it wasn't his fault. And I'm sure you're going to ask me about Derrick Barnett. That stupid boneheaded flag when they had a fumble go out of bounds was critical to that drive continuing. Then, I thought it was an unfortunate call, but this team has yet to force a turnover. It looked like they had one. A penalty took that away as well. I need to see his defense come up with some turnovers. They've got to start giving their offense a bit of a short field. They have to give them a shot in the arm when they're behind like that and say, hey, we got the ball back. Now go do something with it. So there's some things from Gannon I still need to see. Loved game 1, game 2, not as much. It's just 2 games. I believe that Gannon's going to show us some good stuff down the line. I do like the way he adjusted to things in the first game. Didn't like the fact that he wasn't able to overcome the chess match in game 2. We'll have to see what happens against Dallas because this one is obviously going to be a huge game for him defensively.
Yeah, you mentioned Barnett, and obviously Barnett had the big penalty there. But, this seems to be happening a lot. I think I read from Zach Berman he has 6 unnecessary roughness penalties and 2 roughing the passer penalties. So that's 8 15-yard penalties from Derrick Barnett. The problem is now with Brandon Graham out, you really don't have a lot of answers to discipline him.
Yeah, no, you don't. And look, he's in a year he's got to show something. This is his time to try to get paid. And this is not the memory or the lasting impression you want to try to put on the coaching staff or the front office here. It's been a problem with him, and he has had these back-breaking killer penalties. When you've got that feeling that something's about to go your way, that defense was going to get off the field. It was going to be 3rd and 15 for San Francisco. Instead, it was a first down and 15 yards for the Niners as well. that was a killer penalty. And Barnett's got to do better. Now, perhaps because the pressure is going to be on him, I'm sure he's going to have his teammates in his ear all week. I would expect that, yeah, he is going to be the guy who's going to get a lot more snaps as a result of Brandon Graham being out, that he's got to elevate his level of play. It's just what has to happen when it's your turn to step up.
Scott, it was a 15-yard penalty that resulted in a 1st and 10 from the 42 instead of 3rd and 15 from their own 27. And then we know the very next play, what ends up happening is another 15-yard penalty. And at the end of that drive, they end up getting 3 points, which makes it 17-3 with 5:07 left in the game, which means essentially it's a 2-score game with only 5 minutes left. You know, the difference between 14-3 and getting the ball back with, I don't remember what the time was at 3rd down and 15, but possibly 7 minutes left in the game makes that a lot more different. Let's get your opinions now. Brandon Graham is officially out. That was just announced by Nick Sirianni. Brandon Brooks is going on the IR, not done for the year. So let's start with Graham, and what are some of the answers they can try to go with in the Graham spot?
Well, I'm waiting to see, remember they got Ryan Kerrigan in the offseason, and I'm waiting to see him start working his way into the mix a little bit. And I know he's been kind of dealing with some banged up issues of his own through practice. He's on the injury report frequently, but I just don't see him getting a lot of playing time right now. Derrick Barnett is the guy who obviously is going to get a shot. I like Josh Sweat a lot, who's been kind of coming on hard. That potentially could get some extra snaps out there. In fact, I'd prefer him over Barnett right now. So those are some of the guys you're going to look for there. As far as Brandon Brooks, huge blow to the offensive line. Look, you knew this offensive line, given its age and its structure, particularly on that side of the line, was not going to go all 17 games without getting nicked up. Good news is that he's not out for the year. The bad news is that obviously he is going to be out for a little while. So I think you're going to see Lander Dickerson. You're going to see that rookie come in there and likely get the chance to play a lot more there. We saw him come into the game after Brooks was out. Let's see what he does when he gets a full week of reps with the ones. He's still coming off that injury from a year ago. So baptism by fire. He's going to be thrown in and be the guy that you're going to see take over that spot for now.
Yeah, I'm interested with the defensive end spot to see if they get creative here. I mean, I look at what Dallas did the other day and took a middle linebacker, Micah Parsons, and said, go play defensive end. You know, you asked Jannard Avery to do a little bit more. You know, do they get a little creative? Does Josh Sweat get an uptick in snaps? I mean, they seem to be keeping him right at that 40% of the snaps here. He just got a huge contract over the weekend. You can't pay someone that kind of money and keep him at 40% of the snaps. You would think they have to at least, unleash him a little bit more.
That's why I would expect him to get more of the snaps, like you said, because they're paying him now and they want to start getting a return on that investment. And look, I like the way Sweat, he's been trending in the right direction. We talked about Barnett, right? He's kind of been stagnant, and then he drops off because of a stupid play, and then they bench him almost, it seems like, or cut down on his snaps because of that kind of stuff. And then he gets an opportunity, and he makes some plays, and he drops. Sweat's been consistent, and he has been ticking up in the right direction. And then he makes these plays every now and then. He got back he was one of the few guys who got back to Garoppolo yesterday. And that, to me, you need to have that. And that's what Brandon Graham has done on occasion, is get back there and just mess up plays. So I would expect that they need Sweat to do that. So his percentage of snaps is undoubtedly going to go up, and they're going to need to count on him to do some more of that.
Yeah, one option, as you mentioned, Josh Sweat. Derrick Barnett, can they get more out of him? As you kind of mentioned and hinted at, this is a contract year for him. They picked up that fifth-year option. You would like to see more. Now, I did see somebody tweet this earlier, that Barnett, through his first 3 seasons, has actually been more productive than Brandon Graham was through his first 3 years. And we knew that Graham got off to a slow start, and then he kind of figured it out. I don't see, Barnett he'll have like one game where he jumps off the page, and then but just the boneheaded plays just tells me that he just doesn't have it in him. This is a guy who was a first-round pick. He broke a lot of Reggie White's records at Tennessee, but he is just not translating to the NFL game.
No, first-round pick when the draft was here in Philly. And, yeah, he is not the biggest problem I have with him is he's been inconsistent. Like you said, he might give you that one game, and you're like, okay, finally, here it comes. And then it drops off, and it's inconsistent. So what you need is consistency. You need to know as a coach what you're going to get from somebody the moment you put them out there. And when he's not producing, And then when he is doing something, it's drawing a flag, and it's a killer penalty. And like you pointed out, it's happened more than once. It's becoming a trend, and that's a problem. And when that's the narrative on you, it makes it very hard to increase your snaps and then also to go pay that guy when it's time to come for a new contract. So at this point, I do not expect Derrick Barnett to get a new contract here, and I do not expect him, honestly, to fill in a lot of the void of the space left behind. It'll still be in some packages, but not. I expect Josh Sweat to get the snaps.
All right. Over at 97.3 ESPN.com is Grayson's Grades. Let's go over one more guy that you gave an A. He was the only guy that got an A for you, and that was Quez Watkins. He had just 2 catches for 117 yards, but it's apparent that Watkins is going to be not a volume guy, but a big part of their offense.
Yeah, and that's what I gave him the A for. Look, you can only have an opportunity to show what you can do with the opportunities that you get. And he didn't get many, but when he did cash in on them. And look, with his speed, you'd like to think that he could have gotten in the end zone somehow, but stumbling a little bit and having them get him by the corner, that it certainly would have helped. That possession that he got down there on the 91-yard gain ended up having 0 points. But there's other things that I like that Quez does. They do get him involved on the short passing game sometimes so that he can use his burst of speed. I've seen Quez also pull off some decent blocks down the field, and he does a good job at times of doing that. So there's little things that he's doing, and that's a main reason that you're seeing him on the field more than we have in the past, is because he's doing the little things that's earning him the playing time. He's gaining the trust of his quarterback, obviously. To throw that ball from your own end zone and believe that he's going to come down with it in that one-on-one battle, that was huge for Hurts to have that confidence in him. And I think you're only going to start to see more from Watkins grow, and that's what we want to see out of that guy in that role because, look, somebody's got to start taking the pressure off of Devontae Smith. One thing the Niners did yesterday, and it's a very copycat league, is they were doubling up Devontae Smith a lot. And I expect that we're going to see the Cowboys do some of that this week. So other guys like Rager and Watkins, they have to step up. And that's what I liked out of him. In a big play, he came up big and made a play that the Eagles, frankly, needed at that time to flip the field.
For more of the grades, go to 97.3 ESPN.com. Grayson's Grades, another edition in the book. The Eagles lose 17-11 against the San Francisco 49ers. Good 49ers team, a winnable game for Philadelphia, but some young mistakes kind of cost them. They'll move on to play Dallas on Monday night, so a late edition of Grayson's Grades. He'll be on Tuesday, that means, with Grayson's Grades next week. Check out Scott Grayson on Fox 29, and, of course, you can check out Grayson's Grades over at 97.3 ESPN.com. Scott Grayson, thanks, man.
All right, thanks, Mike. Have a good day.
There's Scott Grayson's Grades. Then every Monday after the Eagles game, or, of course, when they play on Monday night like this coming week, you can get them on Tuesday's edition of the Sports Bash. Indeed helps you hire great people fast. Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest. Visit Indeed.com/credit. Indeed.com/credit. Grayson's Grades are brought to you by Boardwalk Honda. From Maine to Miami, nobody beats a Boardwalk deal. Online at boardwalkhonda.com. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget the free mobile app. You can win a spot in this year's LPGA Pro-Am. Go to 97.3 ESPN.com right now to enter a chance to be the 4th member of our foursome. Pete Thompson, myself, an LPGA Pro, and you enter to win an LPGA VIP experience right now. Go to 97.3 ESPN.com. All right, Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. You can watch the show live on YouTube and on our Twitter feed at 973 ESPN. Follow me on Twitter at Mike Gill Show. A Monday after an Eagles loss, always a little disheartening. After the Eagles win, it feels a lot better. It's a lot more excitement. But I think there's a lot of interesting takeaways from this game. As you just heard Scott Grayson give us Grayson's grades. The one grade, Jonathan Gannon, he gave him a D. I thought that was a little harsh, but he gave Sirianni a C. I would almost, if I'm grading, I would give Sirianni a D, and I'd probably go with a B for Jonathan Gannon. I get what he's saying. I don't think he's wrong. But, look, a lot of that, I thought the Eagles' defense played pretty well in the game. For the most part, I thought they played pretty well in the game. They get 17 points. It's hard to say, hey, giving up 17 points in the game, you have a shot to win. I get it. Like, get off the field, do this and that. At the end of the day, if I only give up 17 points at home, I feel like I got to win that game. So I would say that I would have given Sirianni probably a D on the day. I was very down on Sirianni yesterday. It doesn't mean I'm down on him as a coach. I like what Nick Sirianni brings to the table. I like his energy. He's a young guy. He's going to make mistakes. He did announce today that Brandon Graham and Brandon Brooks were both updates on them. Brandon Graham is out for the year. Brandon Brooks is going to miss, I don't know. He did not say specifically that they're going to, he said likely will be placed on the injured list. So it looks like it could be one of those situations where he misses, like 3 weeks or 4 weeks or something like that. Or maybe he's on the injured list so that they can reevaluate it and go from there down the line. But, unfortunately, the injuries happen, and this is the one problem with this team. Now, I will say this. We talk about the fact that this team doesn't have a lot of depth. The two spots they have some depth at are at right guard for Brandon Brooks, where Landon Dickerson was a second-round, highly regarded pick. So if there was a spot where you could afford one injury, it's at that right. Any of the spots that Brandon Brooks or on the offense, any of the spots that Landon Dickerson can play. The reason you drafted Landon Dickerson is because of his versatility. The fact that if there's a guy that gets hurt on the line, that you can utilize Landon Dickerson in that role. The problem will become, if another guy gets hurt on that offensive line. Right? If another guy gets hurt on the offensive line, that's when the problems will start to happen. I think they can withstand one guy getting hurt on the offensive line. But if it's multiple guys on the offensive line, now you have a little bit of an issue. So I think they can withstand that. At Brandon Graham's spot, while it is not ideal to lose Graham, he is the heart and soul of the team, and I think losing him will be very impactful. That is one position where they do have a little bit of depth. They do have Josh Sweat. They do have Derrick Barnett. They do have Ryan Kerrigan, who they went out and signed. Am I saying this is a positive? Hell no. These are the two guys that if you ask me, give me two guys you definitely don't want to lose. These two guys would probably be at the top of my list. Brandon Brooks, to me, is the best right guard in football. He's the last guy on that offensive line that you'll want to lose. Although Jordan Mailata graded out, I think, is the highest offensive lineman in football this week. And Lane Johnson obviously is very solid. But Brandon Brooks, to me, as that right guard, he's probably the best right guard in all of football. So I hate losing him. And on the defensive side of the ball, if you literally said, give me one guy on the Eagles defense that, you could say, I don't want to lose. You can lose somebody, just pick one guy that you're not going to lose. Brandon Graham would probably be that guy. Now, Javon Hargrave is playing out of his mind right now. He was excellent yesterday, I thought. And I thought Brandon Graham, but losing Brandon Graham as the locker room leader and all that stuff, you're going to feel that for a young team that, look, they're holding on right now. In that game yesterday, not having Brandon Graham late, who knows? There was a couple of opportunities. And quite frankly, losing Brandon Graham, I don't know what that means for his future either. They signed him to that extension, and you might be in a situation where Brandon Graham, isn't the same player. I would imagine he's not going to be the same player. And you're saying to yourself, okay, how much more are we going to see Brandon Graham as we know Brandon Graham? 34 years old next season, making a lot of money. That's a bad injury to try to come back from. Now, the one thing is you have had guys come back from that injury. Brandon Brooks has done it twice. So you do have some evidence that people can come back and still play. And if somebody can do it, maybe it's Brandon Graham. So updates provided on Brooks and on Graham. And the news on Graham, obviously, as we thought, not good. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Mike, the thing that made me a little flustered with Nick yesterday was when he burned all 3 of his timeouts before the 2-minute warning. Yeah, he did talk about that yesterday. I didn't really think his answer. He said, we were down 2 scores, and we wanted to make sure we had enough time to score fast and get another possession. I thought we did a good job. Jalen did a great job on that drive, getting us into the end zone fast. So just saving enough time to put yourself in a position to have 2 possessions. I would do that again every day the way we did it. I know obviously we want to get a stop on defense and get the ball back, but give them credit. I thought that was a good call by 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan on the pass to get it to 3rd and 1, and they convert it. Now, nobody asked him about the fact that the play clock ran out. But he did say, look, we would use the timeouts, and he said we would do it again. His whole point is, I was trying to save the time later on, get the ball back and give us – they had 5 minutes left. They're down 2 scores in that play. I don't know. I mean, I agree. We have this – we are so trained to hold these timeouts and just hold them. That being said, if they get the stop on the 3rd and 1 – the Eagles would have had plenty of time to get the ball back. They would have had plenty of time to get the ball back and do something. When San Francisco, how much time was left? I could have sworn that they had, let me go back to that real quick. When they had the 3rd and 1 play. Now, mind you, the play clock expired on that play. I think we all clearly saw that, right? When that happens, it's 3rd down and 1 with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. So if they get the stop there, it's 4th down at their own 23. You're going to have 2 minutes left, which is plenty of time. You don't need timeouts with 2 minutes left in the game. So it only ends up burning you because they convert the 3rd down and 1, and then at the 2-minute warning, they kneel, and kneel the clock out. And that's where you want your timeout so that they can't do that. I get that part of it. The point I'm making is if they get the stop there on 3rd and 1, they would have had plenty of time. They just took the timeouts at a different time of the game. We're just so trained that we want those timeouts deeper in the game, and I don't blame you. But as Sirianni said, I would do that again because he wanted to get the ball back, score quick, which is what they ended up doing. They got down the field. How long was that drive? They went 5 plays, 75 yards in 1 minute and 5 seconds, the Eagles did. They got the 2-point conversion. They make it 17-11. San Francisco got the ball back with 4 minutes left in the game. And again, the Eagles, it goes down to 2.5 minutes, 3rd down and 1 at their own 23. And they don't get the stop there. And then, of course, as the text message suggests, that's where you want those timeouts to kind of come in handy. 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget to download the free mobile app. If you have the mobile app already, you can enter to play golf with Pete Thompson and I in this year's LPGA ShopRite LPGA Pro-Am, which is happening next Wednesday, the 29th, and you could be a part of our foursome. It's a great experience. You get to play golf on one of the greatest courses in our area. You get to play with an LPGA professional, and they even give you a free gift along the way. It's pretty cool. If you want to play, if you want to enter, go to our website, 973ESPN.com right now, or download the free mobile app and get your entry in. We'll pick out the winner for this year's Pro-Am on the Friday edition of Happy Hour Friday with the PT. It is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. When we come back, it's this week's edition of 3 Up, 3 Down. 3 guys I thought played well, 3 guys could have done a lot better. Who are your 3 up and 3 down? Send me a text right now to 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Hit me up on the free mobile app, hit the Message Us button, and tell me who is 3 up, 3 down for you. Brought to you by Dell. For your small business needs, call a Dell Technologies advisor today. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. 341, 3 up, 3 down. These are 3 things that were good, 3 things not so good. Brought to you by your Delaware Valley Acura dealers. For great deals on Acura's award-winning lineup, shop online at DelValAcuraDealers.com. I'm Mike Gill. Follow me on Twitter at Mike Gill Show. Don't forget to download the free mobile app in the Apple Store or Google Play and enter to be a part of our ShopRite LPGA Pro-Am foursome. Myself, Pete Thompson, an LPGA Pro, and you can be the 4th member of our foursome. Just enter now. Go to our website, 973ESPN.com, or use the free mobile app, and you can get your entry in and find out this Friday at 4:40 who our grand prize winner is, and you will play with us on Wednesday, September the 29th in this year's ShopRite LPGA Pro-Am. All right, 3 up, 3 down. These are the guys that stood out to me, and 3 that kind of stood out in a negative way. Let's take a look at the 3 up for this week. Here we go. 3 up, 3 down. First up in the up category. Now, after the Eagles opened the season with a win at Atlanta, kind of came back to earth yesterday, a week after tossing 3 touchdowns. Jalen Hurts came back to earth, but these were the 3 up guys for me in the game. Number 1, Quez Watkins. He proved to be the lone bright spot on the offensive side of the ball, really, other than the offensive line, which I thought played pretty well. Watkins was the only guy who made anything happen. He had a 91-yard catch, caught 2 passes for 117 yards. While the Eagles were unable to score, turning the ball over on downs, Watkins showed his explosive speed can still be a big part of the offense. You can expect the Eagles to continue to use Watkins in a variety of ways in the offense this season. I like the way they kind of set some things up for him in week number 1. I think they can even expand his game more as they move forward here. But Quez Watkins is a up guy for me in week number 1. And I hope that Nick Sirianni continues to utilize him in a variety of ways. Okay? Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. 3 up, 3 down, 3 up. Here's number 2. It's Javon Hargrave again. He has been in the up category twice. Hargrave had 2 sacks, 6 tackles, 3 quarterback hits in week 1. He followed that up with another impressive showing against the Niners. He's healthy, and it shows. 7 total tackles in the game, 2 for loss, a quarterback hit. Javon Hargrave, another week in the up category for Javon Hargrave against the 49ers, and obviously they're going to need more for him now with Brandon Graham out. All right, number 3, 3 up, 3 down. Who's up? I gave it to the Eagles linebackers. This is a much maligned linebacking core. They were torched by George Kittle the first time they played, or the last time they played last year. We talked about it all last week. 15 catches on 15 targets, 183 yards, and a touchdown in the game last year. This time around, Eagles linebackers did a much better job keeping Kittle in check, holding him to just 4 catches for 17 yards in the game, and helped the run defense give up just 3.1 yards per carry. Hargrave and Fletcher Cox, they have stuff to do with that too. But the Eagles linebackers, if you take a look, I thought one of the key things, go look at the box score here and take a look at the linebackers. 11 tackles for Alex Singleton, 10 tackles for Eric Wilson. When your linebackers are leading the way in tackles, that's a good thing. TJ Edwards also had 6 tackles in the game. So I thought the linebackers played pretty good. Jannard Avery, by the way, he was a guy I considered for this. I think you're going to see more snaps from Jannard Avery. I'm wondering if they're going to give him some more defensive end snaps in place of Brandon Graham. But he had 7 tackles. Edwards had 6. Singleton 11. Wilson 10. So the linebackers, I thought, really played well in the game on Sunday. Okay, 3 up, 3 down. Okay, who's down in the game? Well, Nick Sirianni. He's down for me. Sirianni essentially admitted after a game that he could have done a better job, and he's right. Quote, "It was my fault," Sirianni admitted. "I didn't call the good enough plays right there. I didn't put the players in good enough positions, but we're all in this together, coaches and players." Very Andy Reid-ish. Hey, better job, got to do a better job. Didn't put players in good enough position. But he went on to say later, after connecting for a 91-yard completion, they did not punch it in and left with no points on the board, turning the ball over on downs. If they were able to score in that series, the Eagles could have had a 10-0 lead heading into the second quarter of the game. He said, quote, I think I should have called a better play and put our guys in better position to score. So I take full responsibility on that. Again, if it works, then great, we're up 10-0. It didn't. And in hindsight, I just wanted a different play call. I didn't call the right play in the right time. That's Nick Sirianni. He's right. He tried to call a Philly special variation. He put Greg Ward on the field. Everybody knew something wonky was going to happen. You heard what – take a listen to Mike Quick, what he had to say when this play call was thrown into the game. As soon as they saw Greg Ward step onto the field, here is what Mike Quick had to say on the Eagles radio network, 97.3 ESPN. There you go. That was the call right there. Mike Quick saw it. Oh, this is razzle dazzle. He knew it right off the bat. This is razzle dazzle. I mean, it wasn't fooling anybody. Mike Quick, Merrill Reese on the call on 97.3 ESPN. They both saw what was happening. We all saw what was happening. How many snaps did Greg Ward get in the game? I think if you go back and wonder, hey, how many times are they actually putting Greg Ward on the field? You would see that when he was out there in that situation that you really thought something was up. Greg Ward yesterday played, 21 snaps in the game, 36% of the time. So obviously not a good day for Nick Sirianni. He was in my 3 down category. Number 2 on the down, Derrick Barnett and Kayvon Wallace. You guys get lumped together. Classic Derrick Barnett. Back-to-back penalties really hurt the Eagles, and it's becoming the norm for Barnett. His output just doesn't justify the personal foul calls he continues to rack up. His unnecessary hit resulted in a 15-yard penalty, giving the 49ers a 1st and 10 from their own 42 instead of 3rd and 15 from the 27. That's a big difference. 3rd and 15 from your own 27. Instead, you get a 1st and 10, and then the very next play, it was Wallace who was flagged for a 15-yard unnecessary roughness penalty to throw fuel to the fire. They said that he led with the helmet. That's what Sirianni said after the game. He said, I've just got to trust that they do their job right. The tape doesn't lie. We'll figure it out from the tape. But I've just got to trust that they did their job well, and it was what it was. Fletcher Cox went on to say, I don't agree with the call. It is what it is. They threw the flag. They stuck with it, and that was the big turning point in the game for us. And as a player, being honest, it just sucked the air out of you when things like that happen. The end result, a 46-yard field goal, making it 17-3 49ers with 5:07 left in the game. The penalty for Derrick Barnett, he has now been flagged for 8 personal fouls in his career, 6 unnecessary roughness, 2 roughing the quarterbacks. Derrick Barnett is getting to the point where he is almost an unplayable player. The output he puts out does not add up to the draft position and the amount of snaps that he gets. They got to clean that up. And Nick Sirianni, the problem is losing Brandon Graham, you can't make an example because you're short on defensive ends now. By the way, Derrick Barnett yesterday, 3 tackles in the game from his defensive end position. That was his stat line in the game. Number 3 on my 3 up, 3 down category, well, Jalen Reagor. Sometimes it's the little things that separate what makes a good player and a great player. In week 1, Reagor showed that he belonged, showing great speed, catching 6 balls for 49 yards and a touchdown. This week, however, Reagor had a rough day at the office. Caught 2 passes for 5 yards. They could have been bigger as Hurts connected with Reagor for what appeared to be a touchdown pass. However, Reagor stepped out of bounds before he caught the ball, negating what would have been an Eagles touchdown. Instead of scoring a touchdown, the Eagles had a 47-yard field goal blocked, and Jalen Hurts, after the game, admitted if it's a touchdown, it's probably a whole different outcome of the game. Yeah, you're right, Jalen Hurts. You would have been up 17-0 had that touchdown stand potentially, and if you were able to score earlier. But at worst, it would have been 10-0 before the 49ers were able to get on the board. And those are the little things that keep the Eagles from winning that game, and that is why Jalen Reagor is in my 3 down category for today. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. That's 3 up and 3 down. Let me go over to the video stream. I see some people posting some comments over there, so I want to react to those as well. Raymond is checking in on YouTube. He says, can anyone, point out that Miles Sanders hasn't really done anything through 2 games? I don't know that that's accurate there, Raymond. Sanders, 13 carries for 55 yards. He just doesn't I guess if you're saying he doesn't have that big breakout run, I mean, last year he had a couple of big long runs. He's got 28 carries for 129 yards. He's averaging almost 5 yards a carry. He's not a big part of the pass game. That's where Gainwell kind of comes in. But, I mean, he's 15th in the league in rushing. His 28 carries is tied for 13th in the NFL. He is 4.6 yards a carry. I mean, he's getting almost 5 yards every single time he touches the ball. So while he hasn't made a huge impact, Raymond, I don't know why we would be picking out Miles Sanders as a big problem on this team right now, right? I mean, maybe if you want to extrapolate a little bit more on why you're pointing the finger at Miles Sanders. But, I mean, Sanders has been called on 13 times. He had 55 yards. That's 4.2 yards a carry. In the first game against the Falcons, he had 15 carries for 74 yards. It's 5 yards a carry. I mean, can I really say, man, I'm going to criticize my running back getting 5 yards a carry? I don't know. I don't think, Raymond, I appreciate the message. I just don't know that I put Miles Sanders on my list of guys who I would say really hasn't done anything. Yeah, he hasn't scored, but I think Sanders has, I don't know, the coach maybe hasn't put a lot on his plate when he's been asked to do stuff. 5 yards a carry is pretty darn good. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. 8-Ball checks in. He says, Mike, we need another running back. Our running game isn't great. I think the Jordan Howard thing is interesting. Like, you know, can we get a guy to get a little bit more short yardage situation? I mean, the Eagles' running attack, it's interesting. We're saying it's not great. They average over 5 yards a carry yesterday. Now, a lot of that has to do with Jalen Hurts being a big part of the run game with 82 yards. I guess what you could say is they do not have a great run game between the tackles in the short yardage situation. If you want to make that comment, that's a little bit different. Big D checks in, watching the show on YouTube, says the coach looked lost, like he had no idea how to call a game. Other than that, it was a winnable game. Look, I thought Sirianni did a great job in week number 1. I thought he did a poor job in week number 2. So let's not sit here and say he doesn't know how to call a game. He showed that he knows how to call a game. Now he has to take a little bit of what he did in week number 1, mix it in with a little bit of what he did in week number 2, try to marry those things and see if he can get a little bit better balance. I think he relied in week 2 a little bit too much on the deep ball, and in week 1, he didn't have to show the deep ball. He didn't have to really balance his playbook out too much. But it's a learning experience for the coach who's calling plays for the first time, and I thought it was one of those games where I feel like the coach understood that he almost had to be perfect on every play call. He almost like was trying to be too perfect and got too cute. I think McGarry brought up a couple good points on that. If you missed that conversation, check it out on our YouTube channel. When we come back, it's football at 4, 10 observations from Jeff Mosher. Plus, how do the Eagles move on from Brandon Graham's injury? And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast with Jeff Mosher and Adam Kaplan, and it is brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long at the Wild Wild West, Tropicana, and Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. I'm Mike Gill. Follow me on Twitter at Mike Gill Show, and Jeff Mosher is in the house today for a Mosher Monday edition of Football at 4. The Eagles lose 17-11, Jeff Mosher. And, of course, when they lose, all hell breaks loose. The overreactions come in. But this was a game that they were the underdog in. However, are we frustrated that this appeared to be a winnable game and they let it slip out of their hands?
Well, yes and yes. I mean, I feel like every single NFL game is filled with every close game within a possession or two are rife with the kind of mistakes or penalties or missed opportunities that you could say the other team should have, would have, could have. And certainly the Eagles, I mean, you can find three right there: a blocked field goal, botched kind of fourth and goal play call or whatever you want to call it. And then obviously a touchdown rescinded by a penalty by stepping out of bounds. But I imagine if you were with the 49ers right now and in their film room, you're looking at some plays that they felt were left on the field. Go back to the first drive. I mean, Garoppolo, I thought it was a bad Garoppolo pass. It probably could have been better, but it was really Debo just dropping a screen right on second down or third down there where the blocking was in front of him to at least get first down, if not more. And who knows what that drive looks like if it's different. And I'm sure the 49ers feel the same way. The bottom line to me is, Mike, the 49ers are a team that were playing their second straight road game. They didn't even go home. They were in West Virginia all week long. They came in here. They had about as rough of a first 5 to 7 minutes, first two drives as it can go, but they hung in there. And then they flipped the script and they became the aggressor, both defensively and with their blocking up front. And, they took control of the game. The Eagles did not score from their field goal on their second drive in the first quarter until their touchdown in the fourth quarter. That, let's be honest, the 49ers were playing very soft zones at that point, up 2 touchdowns, and they let the Eagles kind of run down the field there, and we're happy to let the clock run down as the Eagles were doing it.
Obviously, Sirianni is getting a lot of flack today. I mean, he said afterwards, I wish I called some better plays. It's the old Andy Reid, better job. I need to do a better job. I got to put bettors in better positions. But isn't he right? Like, could Sirianni, did he get too cute? Did he, did he try to be too cute in this game?
I think you can make the argument that he did, Mike, but I have mixed emotions about how he's kind of approaching that play call. I think most of us appreciate the honesty, the fact that he said he didn't like the call in retrospect. But then the question I would have, there's a reason most head coaches don't say what Nick Sirianni said. It's not that they're necessarily afraid of the backlash or afraid to be honest. It's that you don't want to always judge a play call by its outcome. There are sometimes good plays that are not going to work. There are sometimes bad plays that do work. So what I would want to know from Nick Sirianni, Mike, is he upset with that play call because it didn't work? Because when he called it, you have to think, I mean, it's a play they repped in practice. It's a play they were ready to unveil. You have to think that that was called for a reason. And if the reason was it was a bad play call because of the defensive look, then why aren't you taking a timeout? You clearly thought the play was going to work at the snap. So what is it in retrospect that you don't like about the play other than the fact that it didn't work? Yeah. That's where I would want to know the answers more to.
All right, well, I can give you my reasons because the Philly special play didn't have anybody going out for a pass. It didn't even appear that Hurts knew that he was supposed to go out for the pass. He kind of stood there and was like, oh, wait, you want me to go into the corner? There was nobody running a route on that play. It appeared that the one play looked like it was supposed to be a shovel pass on the inside that Hurts just never shoveled it, and then he just tried to follow almost like an option play. So you're right. It wasn't so much the calls. It was the design of the play that, to me, looked like the breakdown.
Well, then that's where we all have to look. I don't know that Nick Sirianni had his press conference today, and he said, look, when I have a wide receiver throwing the ball, I don't want to have multiple options because then there's confusion, then there's panic. And even though Greg Ward played quarterback, he hasn't played it in quite a while. So that I sort of understand that explanation. But if you're going to then create a play where there's only
how about somebody? Anybody.
Well, that's my point Is he now in retrospect saying that I shouldn't design plays with only one option? Because it didn't sound like that part of it he was upset about. He sounds like he was trying to rationalize why that play only had one option. And so what is it again? I would ask him, what is it then you're saying is bad about the play call? If it's the play design, then I would have to say, well, then why did you design it?
Right. Well, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, but do you agree? Like the Philly special play, okay, I listened to the radio broadcast. We played the play. Mike Quick, as soon as he saw Ward on the field, said, this is a razzle-dazzle play. I mean, almost everybody understood. Now, Ward, you could look at it from two ways, I guess, right? You're in the red zone. Ward is a sure-handed guy. Maybe you like him in the red zone. Okay, fine. But essentially, everybody said the same thing. Ward is never out on the field. What's going to happen here? Okay, razzle-dazzle, and that's what ends up happening. That being said, there was nobody running a route. Like, Hurts didn't know there was no drag, nothing. So that play, boom. But the two other plays before that, those plays were not designed very well either, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, well, the play before that was another play with very limited options, right? There was, I think Zach Ertz was rolling. Zach Ertz had Fred Warner beat by a half step. And I think when you watch that play, you realize there's a chance to get a touchdown. Now, Warner's a great linebacker. So the only throw you can make in that spot is if you're throwing it to the corner, the right corner of the end zone, where either Ertz catches it or it's out. And I think
I thought Ertz had a step if he just let him into that back right corner.
Right. That's a play that you would hope Jalen Hurts looks at and says, next time we run that play, I'm just going to throw it to that spot in the right corner where only Zach Ertz can get it. And then, there was on one of the plays, there was a shovel built in, I think for Zach, maybe the play after that, where he didn't shovel it. And I guess I can understand why. There was a lot of traffic there. I'm not sure that was smart to shovel. And then obviously he's got a drift to the right side. And because of the limited options, there was really nothing to do there. That's another example where maybe the design itself wasn't good. And then if now we're talking about play design, now we're saying, man, it seemed like all the play designs look good against Atlanta, but when you played a real defense, your play designs were not exactly top notch.
Well, let's talk about that, Moshe, because last week, Jeff Mosher from the Inside the Birds podcast, check out the Inside the Birds podcast. The new one is out today. Now, last week, there was a lot of, not criticism, but, they didn't take any shots down the field. Well, they didn't really need to. This week was it seemed that everything was down the field. Whereas I felt that going into this game, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert had a chance to have some big yards in this game. They didn't utilize, to me, you're playing a team that's better than you. Go with Old Faithful. Go with what you know. Go with the veteran guys, and boom, try to use those guys. They only had 4 targets in the game. I didn't like that at all. Yeah,
I thought that was very curious. If you look at the collaboration of the first 2 weeks, I know Next Gen Stats has put this out there that something like 66% of Jalen Hurts' throws that are beyond the line of scrimmage are on the right side of the field. So not only are they we're predictably going where they're going, you can tell where it is, but it seems like all of the vertical stuff is not crossers, not posts, but sideline stuff. You saw it work to Watkins, almost worked to Rager, but as far as using the middle of the field, that's not been an area where the Eagles have really attacked. Even going back to the Atlanta game, they just didn't need to, but it's just not an area that they've attacked a whole lot so far.
Yeah, I know, he was criticized for not taking shots. It almost was like, well, they didn't see us take shots on the field in the first game. Let's try to see if we, put that out there this time and catch them off guard. That didn't work. All right, so Jeff Mosher, football at 4. I want to get to a lot here. Brandon Graham, obviously, out for the year. That was confirmed today. What are some of the options now? They're not going to be exciting, but do you play Sweat more? Does Kerrigan get more? Do you try to do something creative like Dallas did and find a athletic guy and play him at defensive end? I mean, does Avery get more snaps there? How do they go about trying to replace maybe the heart and soul of this team?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, they're already doing some creative things already with Jannard Avery, using him in a way that he's never been used before, but it's not really as a pass rusher. I think the thing that you noticed when Brandon Graham came out is that Barnett and Sweat have obviously been splitting reps over left tackle while Brandon Graham lines up over right tackle. Well, they moved Barnett over right tackle and kept Sweat at left tackle. But the more fascinating thing to me although it's not really fascinating, it's pretty consistent with what they've done so far, is the fact that Josh Sweat only played 28 snaps. Now, Nick Sirianni said today that a lot of that had to do with them being in heavier personnel. They like Sweat against the pass rush, or as a pass rusher, I should say. And so you saw Ryan Kerrigan played more snaps than Josh Sweat. Think about that. The veteran, who's also known as a pass rusher, first and foremost, who's here on a 1-year deal, played more snaps against the guy they just signed to a 3-year extension. And I've said this many times, and some people don't like the fact that I say it, but it's just truth that the Eagles in the past have limited Josh Sweat's snaps because of his history of knee injuries. He's never played more than 38% of the team's snaps until last week when he played closer to 50. I forget what it was. So maybe that was a sign they're ready to play him more, but this can be interpreted as a sign that they're not ready to play him too much more because he obviously didn't. He was outsnapped by 2 other DNs.
So he signs that deal. You would think that they're almost, okay, that's a sign of we're ready to kind of unleash him a little bit more, but that didn't happen.
Sort of. I mean, look, the deal it seems like a lot of money, but I'm sure once you start seeing the market get reset in a year or 2 or 3 years, it's going to be money for a really good situational pass rusher. Okay. And that's probably what it'll wind up being. And that's how they've always viewed him. I don't know that they see him as durable enough to be a starting defensive end who's going to play 65, 70% of the snaps and excel in run defense as much as he does in pass defense, like Brandon Graham. I mean, it's hard to find those Brandon Grahams.
All right, let's go to Brandon Brooks and that whole situation because it's a little murky. They didn't say they're putting him on injury reserve. They probably are. He's not a season-ending injury, so he's going to be out at least a couple of weeks. We think it's a strained pec. So let's start with the injury to Brooks. Do you get the sense that he will play again this year?
That's hard to say. I imagine he will. You know, if it's a pec strain, which you kind of get the feeling that it is because they're not ruling him out for the year. If you look similarly at Javon Hargrave, he had a pec strain on the first day of training camp last year. Training camp's about 4 weeks long. He missed pretty much all of training camp. So you're already looking at an injury that takes about 4 to 6 weeks to recover from. Now, I don't know the particular. This is just something in general that you hear that obviously with it being a pec injury, it's hard to lift weights and keep yourself in, the strength conditioning program that you're normally involved with. So when he does come back, we have to see if he's ready to, if he's going to be in tip-top shape and ready to just step in there and play. If you remember Javon Hargrave, not only did he also tweak a hammy when he came back last year, but he just wasn't himself for the first 3 to 4 weeks. Certainly not what you've seen these first 2 weeks. I mean, he has been probably the best defensive player on the team, maybe the best player on the team through the first 2 weeks of the season. So now you're thinking like 4 to 6 weeks recovery, an extra 1 to 2 weeks of, getting your conditioning and everything back. And that becomes 2 months of the season.
So in his place, Landon Dickerson jumped in. I know, he had barely practiced with Lane Johnson. Johnson said, I've never practiced with him until this week. Right. I would imagine they're going to go with Dickerson, though, as the replacement right off the bat instead of, say, Nate Herbig.
Yeah, I would think so. Now, I've only watched the I just finished before I came on with you, wrapping up watching the offensive tape, and of course, with still no all 22, the only thing we can really look at is the TV copy. But it's pretty clear that Landon Dickerson struggled at times, mostly in pass pro, a few run blocks as well. But he struggled. He got pushed back. He gave up leverage. He plays high, which means like when you get out of your stance, you get raised up too much, and that allows you to lose your balance against big guys on the defensive line. And the Niners it's tough. I'm not going to kill the kid. I mean, this is not exactly ideal situation. You come in the middle of the game against the 49ers, who have a very good defensive front and were very aggressive. So I would imagine the Eagles will give him a game, more practice, a game, get him in there and not panic about it. But, Nate Herbig is a guy who played well at the end of last year. He got better. And then, of course, Jack Driscoll is a guy they trained to basically be an interior offensive lineman also this year. And he'll be off IR, you would imagine, if everything goes well, I guess next week, right? 3 weeks. So we'll see what happens there. But, of course, Landon Dickerson will get the first look based on what they expected out of him when they drafted him in the second round.
By the way, Eagles have placed Zach Ertz on the reserve COVID list. So that just came down a couple seconds ago. This is Football at 4. How did the Eagles place Brandon Graham? How did they replace Brandon Brooks? The injury bug. I guess if they were going to lose guys on the offensive line, Dickerson was drafted for that reason. He could play almost every position on the line. So you would anticipate he is the first guy. I want to ask you about Derrick Barnett and the penalties and how they can do anything, considering that they just lost Brandon Graham. It's almost like you can't discipline him after you've lost Graham because you now probably have to ask him to even play more.
Yeah, and I don't know that they would have disciplined him anyway. Nick Sirianni has been pretty consistent on what happened prior to his arrival. He doesn't really consider, he's called it a blank slate, but he did make an interesting comment about, saying that this isn't just on Derrick Barnett, it's on the coaches. It's on him to coach the coaches, to make sure the coaches are coaching Derrick Barnett to not play recklessly. And so we'll see if that makes a difference, because he can say that there's a blank slate with him, but there's not a blank slate with the Eagles fans and people who have covered the team for a while and seen that he's got a track record of just bad penalties like that, personal foul penalties.
Zach Berman tweeted out he has 6 unnecessary roughness and 2 roughing the passers. That's 8 15-yard penalties he has in his career.
Now, I would have to go back and look at the 2 roughing the passers. I feel like one was bad because I remember us talking about it, but you know how those tend to be. You can do everything right and you still get flagged for unnecessary. But I would say the 6 ones that you're saying that are not on the quarterback, that's just like 3 is too many. You know what I'm saying? 6, you've got to have the discipline when you're especially when you're trying to get back into a game or you're home or whatever. You're just trying to win football games, and these penalties are backbreakers for teams, to not hit a guy when he's out of bounds. Those are the worst kind of penalties.
That one yesterday was egregious.
Yeah, absolutely. It was as bad gets.
All right. So I want to get your take on now the Wallace penalty too. That one, but to get them back to back, that really, Fletcher Cox admitted after the game that the Wallace penalty kind of took the air out of the balloon. He essentially said that's the kind of call that really takes the wind out of your sails, or whatever term he used. But it was 3rd and 15 when that happens, and it goes to first down, and then they get another first down. They end up kicking a field goal, 17-3. The other question that a lot of people are asking about is the use of the timeouts. Now, he said we would do that again. We're just so trained to hold those tight ends, those timeouts till late in the game. If they get the stop. Now, the play clock thing, I don't think people made a big enough deal about that, but that was a factor too. That went to 0. But if they don't get the 3rd and 1, they had plenty of time even without the timeout. So do you have a problem with them burning the timeouts earlier instead of holding them?
No, you need 2 scores at the time, so you need time for 2 scores, right? And you've got to be able to get that time when you can. I don't necessarily like waiting in that situation, because then you're giving the opponent at that time the opportunity to dictate play calling and take the clock down even more. So I have no problem with it. I think you see that more now than you did 5, 10, 15 years ago. I think that's one of the things that some of the head coaches are starting to think more progressively on in the league.
All right. The Eagles lose that game 17-11. Now they'll play Monday night against Dallas. So obviously this turns into a very interesting game. 1-1 against 1-1 on the road. And this schedule's brutal. That's why you look back at this game, and your point about San Francisco is a good one early, but a winnable game because it's at home. You had a chance at home to really go up 17-0 in this game. If you're on the 1, you can't get one in. The touchdown that was Rieger's that got called back, that's another play that, if you get those 2, it's a wholly different game. But now you're 1-1, and you've got Dallas, Kansas City. All of a sudden, it looks like a pretty good Carolina team. Tampa Bay, a pretty good Raiders-looking team. This 5-game stretch is pretty brutal all of a sudden.
It is very brutal. It's tough. And a lot of, it's the Raiders game is on the road. Carolina game's on the road. Dallas, obviously, on the road. And then, of course, when you do come home, you merely have to face last year's champs and the year before Super Bowl champs. So it could be a very rocky stretch here for the Eagles. We'll see.
Football at 4, Jeff Mosher at Jeff Mosher NFL, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And make sure you check out the Inside the Birds podcast with Jeff Mosher and Adam Kaplan. Mosher's back on Wednesday's edition of Football at 4. And, of course, today, Nick Sirianni breaking it down that Brandon Graham is done for the year, and Brandon Brooks will be likely out for a long period of time. We don't know how long, but he is not done for the season as of yet. They are the big stories coming out of the NovaCare complex today. Although, did Sirianni switch the time of his day after? Is he like 2:45 now? Because I don't get that email anymore.
Apparently it was last week. It was like 2:30, 2:35. That used to be like noon, right? It was nice and earlier in the day.
Andy was noon, Chip was noon, and Peterson were noon.
Yeah,
It's really putting a wrench in my day.
A new regime, my friend.
All right, Jeff, take care, man.
All right, take care. You too.
Mosher Monday edition of Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. And tomorrow, Andrew DeCecco is here to break down everything that happened from the game and moving forward against Dallas. And, of course, that's all right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget, download the free mobile app. It's free in the Apple Store and Google Play. And you can check that out, of course, to enter for a chance to play golf with Pete Thompson and I in this year's LPGA Pro-Am. Sports Bash Football at 4 is brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long at the Wild Wild West, Tropicana, and Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. Yes, indeed. So it's simple. You go to our website, 973ESPN.com, and you'll see right on the front page of the website, enter to win a LPGA VIP experience where you will be part of our foursome. Me, Pete, and an LPGA pro, and you. Click on that link and you can enter. And on Friday's edition of Happy Hour Friday with Pete Thompson at 4:40, we will announce this year's winner and who will play with us on the September 24th edition of Happy Hour Friday with the PT. That is all you need to do to enter. So do it now. Go to 973ESPN.com and enter. I will read more of your tweets, texts, messages, comments. It's a busy day after an Eagles loss. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Coming up at 5, Casey Joyner, one thought on every Week 2 matchup, plus a thought on tonight's Monday Night Football game, and we'll dig a little deeper what he liked and didn't like about the Eagles' loss to the San Francisco 49ers. That's all coming up here on a Monday edition of the Sports Bash. Sports Bash live on a Monday. The Eagles lose, and of course, when that happens, we get a lot of reaction from you. So I'll give you the floor on the text board, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. If you're watching the show live on YouTube, our YouTube channel, live every day, you can watch the live video of the show and comment over there. I am seeing a lot of the messages on the YouTube channel. I'll get to those in a second. And, of course, you can download the free mobile app and let us know your thoughts through the Message Us feature. The mobile app is easy to get in the Apple Store or Google Play. Let's see. Raymond checks in. He says, Miles Sanders' value is in the ability to break off a big play. You can't hand him the ball 30 times like Henry, so Sanders needs to generate a big play at least once a game. Yeah, but you can't expect him to break off a 58-yard run every single week. I mean, I feel like asking a lot. I mean, that's just me. I don't think Sanders has been an issue. He's averaging 5 yards a carry. I think he'll break off a long one here or there every once in a while. He actually had a pretty decent run, I thought, the other day. Was that in this game or the week one game? What's his longest run of the year so far this year? Let me take a look at what his long run for the season is so far. But I don't think, I get it. Like, I don't know. What do you want him to do? Break off a long run? What are you complaining that he's on your fantasy team and he's not breaking off a long run? I mean, he's got 28 carries for 129 yards. He's averaging 65 yards a game. He's averaging 4.6 yards per carry. He hasn't had a touchdown yet. He doesn't have that big run yet, but you're not going to get that every single game. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think pointing the finger at Miles Sanders is kind of frivolous at this point. No? Anybody else on board with that? 76ers champ, Miles Sanders is so overrated. I don't know who's overrating him. I mean, I don't know. I mean, who's overrating Miles Sanders? He's a good running back. I don't think he's special. I think he is just a kind of at this point, I actually would say, if you look at his numbers, I mean, I think I said before, he's like 15th in the league in rushing. So if you go off of that, I don't think he's overrated. I think if he's the 15th, has the 15th most yards in the league, that's not overrated. He's in the middle of the pack. He's, top 30. I don't know. I think pointing the finger at Miles Sanders is a bit frivolous. It's kind of a waste of time, to be honest with you. They have a lot more issues than Miles Sanders being the one that is being pulled up here. And you're right. You can't hand the ball 30 times, but the Eagles brought in Kenneth Gainwell to kind of be that guy to kind of bounce off of. So, no, Raymond, I don't agree with that. And 76ers champs, I don't know what the hell that means. Miles Sanders is so overrated. I don't think he's overrated, underrated. I think he's just – it's like the other day. Someone says Jimmy Garoppolo's overrated. I don't think anybody overrates Garoppolo. He's just what he is. He's kind of like a middle-of-the-pack guy. So there you go, 609-403-0973. Marty and EHT, most of Hurts' downfield throws were underthrown. Not sure if he realizes that underthrown and back shoulder throws are not the same. I'm imagining that's something that Mosher maybe said. I don't think that Hurts can throw the ball down the field. He hit Watkins in stride, hit him perfectly right down the sideline of the field. You're not going to hit those at such a high percentage, though. That's why teams don't take that shot down the field. So a lot of the messages regarding Hurts, he has the arm to do it. I just don't like the fact that they asked him to do it so often. Hindsight for sure, but trading Brooks is looking like it would have been a wise move. He cannot stay on the field, so frustrating. You can't go in thinking that, though. And by the way, you're anticipating that other teams were going to want him, right? Who has the same injury problem. If other teams are saying, look, other teams aren't going to say, hey, we want an older veteran guy who's breaking down. So trying to trade him, you're not getting the value back in return that you would want. So the Eagles, look, I think the Eagles' mindset was they thought this team was better than you think this team was. They went out and got Ryan Kerrigan. They went out and got, veteran players, Eric Wilson, Anthony Harris. They went out and got guys that suggested that we think we're better than you think we are. And if we can stay healthy, that we're going to be better. One of the guys they needed to stay healthy was Brandon Brooks. Didn't happen. But what did they do in the second round? A move that a lot of people didn't like. They went out and got Landon Dickerson. So they feel like if they lost Brandon Brooks or they lost Jason Kelsey, that they have a suitable replacement, something that they really didn't have last season. 609-403-0973. Mike, Miles Sanders is not a problem. In fact, he should be carrying a few more per game. He's averaging 4.6 per carry. Let him do more until he shows that he can't. Yeah, I agree with that text message. I don't think that Miles Sanders is in my top 5 problems on this team. And I don't think, look, to say, like last week, we're doing 3 up, 3 down. I couldn't even find 3 guys. And this week, quite frankly, when I did 3 up, 3 down, I had problems finding 3 guys again. I don't think in general that the team played all that poorly. I thought the coached just didn't have a great game. Didn't have a great game plan. I thought the offensive line played well. Jordan Mailata was, this is funny because Mailata, Jeff Kerr tweeted this out. And this is interesting, okay? So Jeff Kerr tweeted this out. And for Jordan Mailata yesterday, apparently he was, let's see, where is the actual stats on this? Here we go. 33 pass blocking snaps, 0 pressures, 0 quarterback hits, 0 sacks allowed. That according to Pro Football Focus. Now, people are posting the video of Bosa basically pushing Mailata back. They're not crediting that sack to Mailata because the pocket in the middle collapsed. In other words, Mailata did his job. He blocked Bosa, but it was the guard and centers that didn't block. Now, Bosa ended up getting the sack. That's why it's a weird – Pro Football Focus rates things a little oddly. They're not saying that Mailata technically got beat. They're saying that Bosa got the sack because the guys in the middle of the line got beat. So take that for what it's worth. That being said, Mailata was the highest rated or the second highest rated tackle in football. He's like the third highest rated in football so far this season. I thought the offensive line did a fine job for the most part. I think the receivers had a little trouble getting open yesterday. Those younger receivers, Rager and Smith, that could be questioned. I don't like the game plan that Sirianni had. I thought that. So looking at players, I don't think I look at the players and say, man, this guy played bad, that guy played bad. Mike, I don't think Eagle fans are ever happy with solid production. They want 100 yards a game out of Sanders. It's just not realistic. I agree. I'm on your side there, man. I agree that I don't think – look, Miles Sanders is not making the list of the top 5 guys. If I'm rolling off names of people who didn't play well, Miles Sanders isn't making that list. So frivolous waste of my time. Sorry, Raymond. I appreciate you tweeting into the show or, commenting on the video stream, but I don't agree with you. I don't agree with that guy. Peanut Butter is watching the show on YouTube. He says Kenneth Gainwell is the future. I don't think so. I think Sanders and Gainwell are a good 1-2 punch. I don't think you're going to see Gainwell ever be a lead back, though. He's too small. But he'll have a big role. I think Gainwell does have a role. I think Sanders has a role. Jay and Margate's checking in. Let me take a break first. I'll read Jay and Margate when we come back. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Mike Gill, taking you till 6. Casey Joyner at 5. Jeff Kerr, 5:25 tonight, 5:30. At Mike Gill Show on Twitter. If you want to play golf with Pete Thompson and I in this year's ShopRite LPGA Pro-Am, you can enter right now on our website. Go to 973ESPN.com and enter for a chance to play with us. We'll announce the winner on Friday's edition of Happy Hour Friday. 4:43 Monday. I'm Mike Gill at Mike Gill Show on Twitter. Follow me there. Download the free mobile app in the Apple Store or Google Play. Message us through there. 609-403-0973. Text board is open. 609-403-0973. Jeff is checking in. Says, I've been eating crow all morning. That's why we shouldn't get too high or too low. Jeff, we know this team is going to be very frustrating. We know this team is young. We know this team has some younger talent, but you can't rely on young players to win week in and week out. If anything, this could be a very even Steven type of team. 9-8, 8-9, 10-7, 7-10, somewhere in that range. You know, the way this team does have skill players who have some talent. They do have a good offensive line, but now they've already lost a guy on that offensive line. Brandon Brooks. Mike, this is from Jay in Margate. What's going on, Jay? Mike, I love the show, but it seems much of the times many of the listeners are Eagles hardliners who really don't know that much about football in general. Miles is a very serviceable back and not even close to this team's biggest problem. Jay and Margate. Look, Eagles fans are passionate. They're irrational at times. Sixers fans are irrational. Phillies fans are irrational. We get that. The frustration from the fans, and I don't know if these guys just don't like Miles Sanders or what. You're right. Sanders is not on the list of problems that this team has. You know, the problems that this team have, I think, are minimal in terms of youth. Youth is at the top of the list why this team had some problems yesterday, I think, anyway. Youth at the head coaching spot. Inexperience at calling plays in that goal line area, in the red zone. You don't just come into the league and think you're going to excel in the red zone every single time you're down there. No, there's a lot of growing pains. And that doesn't mean they're going to fail every time they're in the red zone. But I think Nick Sirianni had to dip his toe in the water and see what works and does and what doesn't. The problem is when you're getting on-the-job training doing it. He didn't get a chance to be a play caller, right? He didn't get a chance to call plays really in Indianapolis, which means this is trial by fire. Hey, let me see if I can get cute in the red zone. Nope, that doesn't work. You hope that he learns from that down the road. Now, you also hope that he doesn't rip that page and say, this is completely out of the playbook. What worked this week might not work next week or vice versa. Fred Warner is one of the best linebackers in football. Not every team has Warner playing that position. And because of Warner, maybe that's why that play got blown up yesterday. If Warner's not the linebacker on that play, maybe that play ends up working. 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973 is the text board. Hit me up on the video stream as well. Let's see what else we got over there on the video stream. And let's check in here. Mike, I'd rather have a loss like this than a team just being murdered and not showing up. What I'm tired of is the screens for losses. It happened with Doug, and now it's happening with Nick. Well, obviously, you know, you want to be fighting in a game and have a chance to win the game rather than lose 45-0. We can agree on that. The screens for losses, I didn't see. Did I miss a lot of that yesterday? I didn't happen to see a lot of the screens for. In fact, I said I don't think they ran enough of the bubble screens. I haven't seen the jet sweep. I want to see a couple things that I want to see here, okay, that I think they can add to this offense. And I think you're going to see from this offense. Like, I'm not souring on Nick Sirianni. I think Sirianni had a tough day yesterday, but I think he will learn from this game. I think he's a smart guy, and that he will learn from this game. Is you have Quez Watkins. I want to see a seam route from Quez Watkins where he just bang right down the seam and gets lined up with a safety. I want to see them move him in motion, get some mismatch. Watkins has shown that he can be an asset and that he can play. So let's utilize that. Let's use Quez Watkins. I know you can't sit here and say, hey, let's utilize a 6th-round pick and build an offense around him. That's not what I'm saying. Oh, by the way, Antonio Brown was a, 6th-round pick? And I'm not saying Quez Watkins is Antonio Brown, but that's just not pigeonhole a guy because of where he was drafted and say, well, he can't play. No, Watkins can play. He's got speed. He has shown the ability to catch the football. Let's find creative ways to get him the ball. And I thought in week 1, they utilized some plays to get him the ball. Then they got away from him. And I was okay with that because I thought it set something up for down the road. But moving on from that, they got to do a better job of, of getting him involved in different ways. It's almost like in week 1, we're only going to use you like this. In week 2, we're only going to use you like this. No, open some things up, and you can marry all 3 ways. Down the field, take shots, right? In the slot, in the jet sweep. You can utilize him in a variety of ways. And I think that is the way they can get a better balance in the play calling. In the game against Atlanta, the Eagles had 11 pass attempts at or behind the line of scrimmage. Against the 49ers, they had 4, according to NFL Next Gen stats. So that text message regarding the bubble screen stuff, way off base. It's amazing to me that sometimes we say we watch the same game, but I don't know how that occurs. Because I'm thinking to myself, now Josh just sent me that stat, and I said, like, when I saw that message, I said, I don't remember them running any bubble screen stuff yet, barely any. Like, I don't think they utilized the screen game at all yesterday. And sure enough, they didn't. I didn't think we were watching this. What game was that guy watching? Seriously. What game was that guy watching? God's sakes. Oh, man. Mike, do you think that Carson, do you think that Gannon could have pressed the coverage up a little more? Jimmy G can't complete a pass more than 20 yards downfield. He stinks. Mind you, I'm not a D coordinator. Well, I'm glad that you threw that caveat in at the end there, pal. Do I think Gannon could have used a little press coverage? I thought Grayson was too tough on Gannon. He gave him a freaking D. I mean, geez. How do you give Gannon a D? They gave up 7. The Eagles have given up 23 points in 2 games. How do I give the defensive coordinator a D? But somebody messaged, man, there's so many comments today in the stream over here. Where was this comment earlier that I saw about? Oh, here we go. Our offense had opportunities. Our defense played great. They got gassed on that 8 to 9 minute drive. I look more at the positive. Blame is on Sirianni for play calling that sucked. All right. Yeah. Okay. The 8 to 9 minute drive. You're right. There was a time where they had that long 8 to 9 minute drive. And during the broadcast, who did the game yesterday? Amin and Schlereth. That Schlereth indicated that they looked gassed. And I would agree that late in that game, I think the defense looked a little gassed. Here's the problem with the text message. It's not the problem. Here's what I would say to the text message. Do you think Gannon could have pressed coverage a little bit more? Yes and no. Gannon, as Sal Powell told us on Friday's show, what's one thing that this coaching staff has kind of hung its hat on? They don't want to get beat on the big play, right? They don't want the big play to get them. And Deebo Samuel is a guy that can get you on the big play. So to answer the question about the press coverage, especially, this team's not going to blitz a whole heck of a lot. I hate to tell you this, guys. I know you want this blitz. You guys love the blitz out there. Schwartz didn't blitz, and guess what? Gannon ain't going to blitz much either. Gannon is not going to send the house. He is not going to blitz all that much. They're running 2 safety high. They're going to try to get pressure with their 4, and you're not going to see a lot of blitzers. I said in the past, they do not have good blitzing personnel. They do not have linebackers who are – now, Jannard Avery, if he gets some more snaps, maybe you see a little bit more outside rush from him. If Kerrigan gets more snaps, maybe they do some more with Avery and Kerrigan. But I don't think you should expect to see press coverage. To go back to that guy's text message, I don't think you're going to see the press coverage all that much because they don't want to get beat deep. They're okay with giving up. It's all the bend, don't break. Very Jim Johnson-esque. Everything in front, make the tackle, all that stuff. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Let's go back and read a couple of more of your messages. Let's go over to the video stream and take a look at all right, Jalen checks in. He says, the Eagles have honestly been great against the tight ends so far, completely stopped Kittles and Pitts. Pitts had a big game against Tampa. Yeah, Pitts did play well yesterday. Yeah, no, I in my 3 up, 3 down, my ups were linebacker. I thought the linebackers have been pretty good so far this year. I think the linebackers have last year. I remember coming in and getting on Geary almost every single week for the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. The linebackers have not been a problem so far. And look, the defense, in my opinion, has not been a problem so far. I mean, how can I sit here and complain about a team that's given up 23 points? Yeah, do I want you to get off the field? Do I want you to be able to get that big stop? Absolutely. By the way, the Eagles have placed tight end Zach Ertz on the COVID list per a team tweet, pending the vaccination status and test results. I don't know if Ertz is vaccinated or not. It's not my business to get into, but he could still be eligible to play on Monday night against the Cowboys. But for now, he is off the roster. So now they have an additional roster spot to fill if Ertz is not ready to play in the game. They presently have Dallas Goedert and Jack Stoll has been active and playing as the third tight end. I think it's unlikely they go into Monday night with if Ertz can't play. We'll see what they end up doing at the tight end spot. Ertz has either tested positive for COVID, right? Or he has been in close contact with somebody, but his status would be unclear because we don't know his vaccination status. Got all that? He has been really relegated to a secondary role in the offense so far. He has 3 catches for 40 yards on the season. And 1 year left to go on his 5-year, $42 million deal. So far, Zach Ertz has not been a big factor, although he did have a role in that Devonta Smith touchdown in week number 1. He ran that rub route. So COVID-19 list for Ertz. Brandon Graham, done for the year. And Brandon Brooks looks like he's going to go on the injured list. Quick text message from Mike in Ocean City. Says, Mike, I think losing this game is actually a good thing. If they rolled yesterday, they might think they have figured it out. Humbled and hungry is what I expect. Mike, Ocean City, good text, man. Hey, if they build off this loss and get a win in Dallas, I'll trade off. I'll take a win in Dallas for the loss at home. 2 road wins to start the year off. It's a good way to start in the first 3 games. Sports Bash Live, one thought every game. Up next. 5 o'clock hour on the Sports Bash starts now. One thought every game in week number 2. Casey Joyner is set to join us from The Athletic and the Philadelphia Inquirer as the Eagles lose a tough one. We'll get into that one. Plus, get one thought on every game. Casey Joyner's appearance is brought to you by Cape Regional Health System for a healthier life. Call 609-463-CAPE. One thought every game starts now with the Athletic NFL writer and from the Philadelphia Inquirer, Casey Joyner, live on the video stream and right here on 97.3 ESPN. Casey, welcome back, man. How are you?
Great. Would have felt better with a little better performance than the Eagles, but hey, it was still a fun Sunday.
It was. Now, a little better performance. Where was the performance lacking? Was it more from the players, the game plan, the coaching? When you look back at that game, it looked like a winnable game, but 17-11, an ugly game, a winnable game that just a couple of plays here or there really changed the dynamics of that one.
I'd say it's a little bit of everything. There were a lot of improvements between week 1 and week 2, believe it or not. There are a number of places where the Eagles improved and a number of places where you could look at them and go, this has the makings of a really good team. But there were a couple of areas, especially I think there were a couple of coaching areas that I hate to say it brought back to mind Doug Peterson. And I don't mean that in a good way.
All right, well, let's go over some of those things because Nick Sirianni did admit yesterday, hey, I could have done a better job. I wish I could have called some different plays. You know, sometimes it's not the play call, it was the play design. I thought some of the play design, on some of those goal line plays inside the red zone could have been a little better.
You have the makings of the best run blocking team in the league coming off of I've got that metric called good blocking rate that measures how often an offense gives ball carries quality run blocking. The Eagles had a 63.3% good blocking rate in week 1. That's a fantastic number. They led the league in that category last year. You get a first and goal at the 1-yard line, and you throw the football. Bear Bryant used to say, people ask him, why is your goal line defense so good? He said, because we force the other team to pass, and bad things can happen when you pass. And the Eagles didn't have to pass on that first down play. In fact, they ought to just have run the ball 4 straight times and make San Francisco beat them. And they didn't. They decided we're going to throw a pass. And even my son on second down was saying, they ought to throw Philly special here. My 16-year-old son, as smart as he is, if he knows Philly special is something they're thinking about, the San Francisco coaches are probably thinking about it too. So, yeah, Sirianni needs to look at his goal line play calls.
Right. So inside that red zone, they had a little bit of problems. And obviously, you look at the play down the sideline. They hit Quez Watkins on that big play. But, Casey, did you think they took too many shots down the field?
I did. And they're taking the wrong kinds of shots. I mean, it's easy to say that, but you're not hitting uncontested shots. You're not, you're going up, always getting to receivers who are covered by players, and what you're trying to do on deep passes most of the time is you're trying to find a way to, you never get somebody uncovered because it takes a blown coverage for that. Although the Eagles had a couple of those in this contest on their defense, you're usually not going to get that, but you're not trying to send receivers to matchups where they're probably not going to win. And I don't think the Eagles have a receiving core where you say, hey, I want you running straight down the field with a good coverage safety sitting over top of you. That's not the kind of passes you want to throw. Jump balls are not their specialty. This isn't Randy Moss we've got out here. So yeah, I think the Eagles would like to rethink what they do vertically because there are probably some other things that they could do besides throwing to covered receivers.
Yeah, I was wondering, in that game, I think on Friday we talked about, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, maybe get the middle of the field, the tight ends, only 4 targets in the game from the tight end. I thought that was something that they could have done more of.
I couldn't agree more. They should have done more, but they could have done more, but they should have done more. But I think San Francisco, they'll probably adjusted as well. And I think San Francisco looked at week 1 and they said, okay, you dink and dunk passed all the way downfield. As we talked last week, the Eagles only had a deep pass per the NFL game book. If you look at measure it by air yards, it's a little different. But one pass that traveled 15 or more yards downfield in week 1. And I think San Francisco said, fine, we know you could do that, and you're very efficient when you do that. So we're going to take some of that away. We want to make you throw to these matchups that you don't want to throw to. And we're not going to give you the tight end as a check down. If they're going to do that, that's fine because you do have playmakers elsewhere, but you got to be able to hit those playmakers. And again, I think it says something. The Eagles couldn't get the receivers open against the San Francisco secondary. They've got some solid players. I mean, Lenoir got beat a couple times on the 91-yard play, and he got beat on the touchdown that got called back because the receiver stepped out of bounds. But this is not a shutdown defense. This is not a secondary that I have any red-rated players in. So this is a concern for the Eagles because if you can't get open against yellow-rated players, it means you've got pretty subpar receivers.
All right, well, let's get into that because are the Eagles, they've got 2 young players out there. Smith and Rieger, a first-year player and a second-year player, are they not strong enough yet? Are they not ready to kind of get off the coverage? If teams already found out that, hey, we can get you from breaking off the line of scrimmage.
Especially Smith, I think that the 49ers got physical with him, got right up on him and said, we don't think that you can get open or you can just physically your way downfield. We'll cap you with a safety over the top. We don't think you're going to beat that coverage. He is a space guy. You've got to get him into space and let him move. He's got some speed. And I think if you put him in certain situations, if you get a mismatch, if you got him against the linebacker, great. I love that matchup, throwing him all day. But if you get him against other situations where you've got safeties and cornerbacks who are playing certain types of leverage to say, we're going to limit the routes that you can run and we're going to make you run into traffic situations, it's a problem because you as the offensive coordinator then have to say, I need to find ways to get him out of that situation because they put him into situations just by virtue of their defense to make him do things he wasn't very good at. So either he's got to get better at things he's not good at, or you've got to find ways to not make him do that. So it's a problem for the Eagles.
Yeah, I think, and look, he's a first-time play caller. I think he obviously said, hey, I wish I could have called some better plays throughout the course of the day there. If they could kind of marry what they did in week 1 and week 2, they should have a little bit better balance. Now, they ran the ball pretty well, but you talked about the offensive line. They lose Brandon Brooks. They have the makings, you say, of the really good offensive line. Now, Dickerson came in, and he was kind of up and down. But overall, how did the line perform, and can they utilize what that line does to, continue to build this offense?
I very much like the fact that they were leaning on the ground game more in this contest. I thought it was something that they needed to do. The problem for the Eagles this year isn't the good run blocking because they had mentioned the 63.3% good blocking rate in week 1. That's fantastic run blocking. They got a 47.8% good blocking rate in week 2. So, I mean, those are both really good numbers. 40 is about the league average. If you're above that and if you're close to 50 in a game, you're doing well. That's great. But the league average of good blocking yards per attempt, which is how productive you are when you get good run blocking, is 8.5 yards. Week 1, they're sitting at 7.4 yards. Yesterday, 6.4 yards. They're not getting quality gains or big enough gains when they're getting good run blocking. And that is, there's a lot of things that can cause that. San Francisco plays the type of defense that wants to take that away from you, that if you do beat them up front, they're going to fill the gaps pretty well. They're going to pursue well. So I think there are some issues there. But I'd also like to see Miles Sanders see some of the breakaway skills he showed last year because he really hasn't shown them so far this year. And they need that if they're going to lean on the ground game.
All right, Miles Sanders, obviously, in the run game, they're averaging about 5 yards a carry. So it looks like they can get the yards, as you mentioned, on the ground. But that wasn't the big problem yesterday. It was, as you kind of talked about, they took a lot of shots on the field. They didn't utilize the middle of the field. Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball real fast. They've given up 23 points in 2 games. They gave up 17 yesterday. So is this a good defense when you watch this team? Is this a defense that they can hang their hats on?
This is a very good defense. What I liked about the running game, we came in contest going, okay, are they going to be able to stop the 49ers ground game? Yesterday, they only gave up 37.5% good blocking rate of defense. That is really good, especially against the Niners. And they only allowed, this has been a problem. We talked about it for years, and I mentioned it in my Philadelphia Inquirer article last week. The Eagles, in the 4 years under Jim Schwartz, ranked 29th or worst on defense in good blocking yards per attempt, the average that they give up defensively. They usually give up almost 10 yards or sometimes more than 10 yards per carry when you got good blocking on them. Yesterday, 6.8 yards. They're just not giving you the big gains. So they're getting more consistent at winning the point of attack blocks yesterday. So I love where they're at there. And if you look in coverage, by the way, if you're looking at coverage there, the coverage metrics for the Eagles cornerbacks is fantastic. So far, Steven Nelson per Pro Football Reference, 6.4 yards per target this year. That's a great number. Darius Slay, 3.9 yards. You can absolutely build a defense in that kind of coverage.
All right, we will see how that defense fares against the Dallas Cowboys, who are loaded with weapons. We'll talk more about that on Friday when KC returns for one thought on every game. But let's take a look at one thought on every game for week number 2 and see how it affected everything in week 2. Let's start off with Cincinnati and Chicago. The Bears get a home win there, but they open up a can of worms because Andy Dalton got hurt in the game. Now they're saying he will play when he's ready to go, but what did Fields do in that game?
Fields put up a 27.9 passer rating yesterday, which is an abysmal number. He looked like the situation was too big for him. Like, this is something he is not yet ready for. So I like the idea of still going back to Dalton and saying, this is a guy we've got to develop. He's not quite ready yet. But they give the Bears credit for winning because their defense is bad and the Bengals offense is good, and the Bears still found a way to make enough plays to win.
20-17. Cleveland beats Houston 31-21. Another injured quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, goes out in that one, but Cleveland puts up 31 in the game. The Texans maybe aren't as bad as we thought.
The Texans know what they want to be. David Culley, their head coach, he knows exactly what he wanted to be. In fact, I wrote an article for The Athletic today. It looks at one fantasy-centric question for every team, and it really goes deep dive into metrics for each team, so you can look at it from an NFL perspective. And you look at the carries and how he split up amongst his running backs. He's got a very specific idea of what he wants Johnson to be, what he wants Ingram to be, what he wants Lindsey to be. I think he's got an idea for his entire team the way they want to be. And when you know where you want to go, it makes it a heck of a lot easier than the way the Texans were under Bill O'Brien. So I think they are going to be a better team than people think.
One thought every game, L.A. beats Indianapolis, another injured quarterback. Carson Wentz sprains both his ankles in this game. They lose both their home games, 27-24. Colts 0-2, Rams 2-0.
I can understand how you sprain both ankles. It's like that Eagles receiver, I forget who, or the Bears receiver, was Davis.
Oh, yeah, he blew out both of his ACLs. Wendell Davis, yeah.
Wendell Davis, that's what it is, yeah. On the same play. Same idea for Wentz. How do you sprain both ankles? The Rams, hey, look, I got to give the Colts credit. The Rams came into this game as a better team, and the Colts had injuries all over the place. They were the most injured team going into week 2, and they still found a way to get close and nearly win that contest. But when you look how bad Easton played in Wentz's place, if they lose Wentz for a period of time, and let's face it, this is why he's not the Eagles quarterback anymore, that's a team that's going to have some problems because the drop-off in the backup, from starter to backup,
yep. Hey, by the way, I know a team that has 2 decent backup quarterbacks. Howie Roseman likes to make trades. Let's go to Buffalo, blowing out Miami. I mean, I know Tua gets hurt, but one thing for sure, we thought that Brian Flores' defense would always kind of keep them in the game. 35-0, and another quarterback hurt in this one.
Yeah, big time. And the Bills, I mean, they beat Miami 56-26 week 17 last year. You think, it's a late season game. It doesn't mean anything. But now that means they beat them in 2 straight games, 91-26. I mean, they've got Miami's number right now. And the Dolphins on offense, they've got more talent than they're showing, but they're playing terrible on offense. This is an awful offense. You can't put that much pressure on the defense either. Buffalo's, that defense is not a 35-point-a-game defense. They're much better than that. But you've got to give them something on offense. Otherwise, you're going to put the defense in such bad situations. Miami will have some trouble this year.
One thought every game, Casey Joyner. Let's go to the Jets and New England. New England wins that game. New England, 2 rookie quarterbacks in this game. The Jets rookie quarterback, though, Wilson has looked like he has lost 4 interceptions in the game. And then Mac Jones, obviously, they got just enough points for the Patriots. But both these teams seem to have issues.
They do. New England is limited. That people thought that they got Jonathan Smith and Hunter Henry. At least I did. I thought, okay, well, they're going to use them as receiving targets. They're not going to try and rebuild Gronk, but they're going to try and do something like that. And each of those guys are both really good receivers. They're using them both as run blocking. That's what they want to be. They know we've got a rookie quarterback, and we know we've got a solid defense, and we can run the ball. That's who we're going to be. And the Jets, they just have a quarterback, Wilson. He takes way too many chances. He had 1 season in college, 1 good season, and it was against kind of a shaky schedule. So I think he's got a lot of development in front of him, and the Jets going to have a long year.
All right, Vegas, a surprise win. They go to Pittsburgh and get a road victory, and they look kind of impressive in doing so. Derek Carr with a big day.
Derek Carr leads the league in pass attempts. I covered him in that article in The Athletic. He leads the league in pass attempts and pass completions, and his vertical numbers are tremendous. You would just not think that's what the Raiders are, especially because they play Baltimore and Pittsburgh. You wouldn't think that's what they'd be. But Pittsburgh's defense was missing 4 starters by the end of the game. Their secondary is shaky, and Ben Roethlisberger is already calling out the offensive coordinator. Steelers could be in some trouble.
One thought every game, New Orleans, maybe another. So there's a couple surprise games. This one at the top of the list. Carolina beats up New Orleans 26-7. We might have to look at this Panthers team a little differently.
Yeah, we might, and we also need to look at Jameis Winston. I got to give Sean Payton credit. I talked about in the article in The Athletic. Sean Payton, give him credit. He found a way to keep Jameis Winston from throwing interceptions. He just doesn't have him throw it all. I mean, the Saints are, you just call 20 passes a game. But the thing is, he still leads the league in vertical interceptions, despite throwing like 20 passes a game. And the Panthers, yes, they are. Darnold is not a great quarterback. He is a good, possibly very good quarterback, possibly a top 12 quarterback in the right situation. And the Panthers are finding the right situation.
They got a good defense, that Panthers team. They made some savvy pickups in the offseason. Denver beats Jacksonville to get to 2-0. Teddy Bridgewater with a big game down there. A lot of people like that Denver team. If the quarterback plays well, they might be a team to keep an eye on.
They lost Judy, and they still played well enough to win. I mean, this is not they're a kind of team that hey, look, they have a certain style of winning. They have a certain style of game that they want to play. It's going to be close to the vest, but they've got enough receivers to make the plays. They've got Bant, they've got Sutton. He had a very good game yesterday, and Bridgewater, he passed all 7 parcels. As I said it many times over the years, quarterbacks who do that tend to be really good. And the Jaguars got some big problems because I think their offense is in a very bad way, and Lawrence looks every bit the rookie this year.
All right, Minnesota, a heartbreaking loss for them. They thought they kicked the field goal to win, a short field goal. In fact, on the radio, if you were listening, they won the game. They actually end up losing. Arizona 34-33. Murray for 400 yards in the game.
400 yards. The Arizona offense is fantastic. And the thing is, Vikings, this is going to be the problem for both these teams. The Cardinals, they're both going to get to shootouts. We talked many times over the years that shootouts are 50-50 propositions, even for the best offenses. But the Cardinals have more talent on defense and a better offense. The Vikings still should have won this game. They've had kicking problems over the years. This kind of thing has come up before. And that's who they are. And it's got to tear Mike Zimmer apart because if that's who they are as a team, I really don't think, despite what they have, their offense is good enough to win a lot of games. I think the Vikings have a long year.
That's a team that deteriorated quickly on the defensive side of the ball. Atlanta, Tampa Bay, they fought them. Atlanta took a late lead in that game, and then a couple of late interceptions by Matt Ryan, who had a pretty good game up until the interceptions, but Tampa too much. They win 48-25.
Give Arthur Smith credit for stepping up in his second game. He had a very terrible first game, and he still kept that team fighting, was very creative, but Tampa's just got such a significant talent edge. And again, Brady, he gets down. There was no surprise that they were going to come back. And think of it, the Bucs, I don't think, are still playing that well. Actually, they're not playing that well on defense, and they have room to improve on offense too because Ronald Jones has barely been involved in their team. So this is a team that's playing extremely well right now, and I think they're going to get even better.
One thought every game, Dallas goes on the road and gets a win against the Chargers. This is a game that the Chargers they lost before. They have figured out ways to win this game, but they couldn't get it done. A couple of referee calls that kind of impacted this one, including a sack late in that game that may not have actually been a sack, but Dallas gets the win.
They do, and the Chargers, as you said, they found ways to lose these games before, but the way they played last week, I think they put to bed the idea they can't win these sorts of games. But you've got to make some of these plays. Herbert I don't know if it was his worst game as a pro, but in a lot of ways it probably was because he made errors in some of the biggest moments of the game, and he's got to find a way to stop doing that. Mind you, Dallas, they're missing 3 starters on defense, including one of their starting safeties. I mean, this is a banged-up defense, and Herbert still couldn't make the plays when he needed to. So if I'm the Chargers, I'm worried about that.
There's some good 4 o'clock games yesterday, including Tennessee coming back with Seattle. Derrick Henry went bananas with over 180 yards. Tannehill with 347 to offset what Lockett did. He's been unbelievable. This one was a highly entertaining game, but a much-needed win on the road by Tennessee.
I give Rabel credit because, Todd Downing, their offensive coordinator, he called a terrible first game. He should be one apologizing for them losing that contest. And this game, the thing is, we got Derrick Henry. I don't want to say it's an easy game plan, but okay, keep calling the running plays of this guy because he's a tank. He's the best power back in the league since Earl Campbell. And I would stand by that comment. He's the best power back going back that far. They're going back 40 years. And their offense finally got some verticality going to it. So when you've got the receivers that they have, they should be able to put up kind of numbers that they do. Both these defenses, though, it is a concern for each of them because they're not playing that well.
And what about last night? Kansas City goes on the road to Baltimore, and Baltimore gets a late interception of Patrick Mahomes, who was flinging it all over the place. But Lamar Jackson made a couple of big plays, and Baltimore holds on 36-35.
And Baltimore they know the kind of power team that they want to be, so they can absorb injuries on offense and they can be what they are in defense because they got a very, very aggressive defense. But Mahomes threw some picks. That one play where he's getting tackled and he throws the ball. It's one of those things when he first started doing that a couple years ago, people were like, oh, that's going to come back to haunt him. And it didn't. And so we're like, oh, he can get away with that. And I see that pass and I'm realizing, and I think he came out the sidelines and he was telling Andy Reid, hey, sorry for doing that because he realizes I can't take those sorts of chances in these types of games because that's the kind of thing that gets us a loss. And I think a lot of the loss falls on him, even though he made tons of big plays.
One thought every game, including tonight's Monday night matchup. Detroit plays Green Bay. Green Bay looked awful in week number 1. Detroit at least showed a little bit of fight. So can the Lions go on the road and pick up a win against Green Bay? I don't know what we think about Green Bay, but Detroit at least showed a little fight, something Green Bay did not in week 1.
Yeah, if you look at the talent, I mentioned matchup points over the years, 1 to 100 scale, 100 being the most favorable. Detroit gives Green Bay 100 matchup points on the running game and the passing game. So I mean, you couldn't ask for more favorable matchup. The Detroit lost their best cornerback last week, Jeff Okudah, to a season-ending injury. So that's a big problem there. On paper, you'd think the Packers should throw for 400 yards and score 42 points, and they probably will. But as you mentioned, Detroit, that knee biting comment and such, people are laugh at Campbell and things for it. But look, they showed it last week that even though we're overmatched, we're still going to fight hard. So hey, if I'm Detroit, if I could punch Green Bay in the mouth early in the game, maybe I can keep it close. I still think Green Bay wins big, but I wouldn't be shocked if Detroit kept this game closer than expected.
Casey Joyner from The Athletic and the Philadelphia Inquirer here. One thought every game. There you go. He'll be back on Friday with one thought on every week 3 game. The Eagles play on Monday night against Dallas, so he will be breaking that game down with us on Monday. So, Casey Joyner, if you are an Eagles fan after that loss, are you encouraged or are you a little discouraged?
I'm encouraged because I like the way the defense is playing. And if the defense keeps playing this well, San Francisco's a talented offense. And then Philadelphia held their own against them. We saw what Atlanta did against Tampa, and Philadelphia held their own against them. I like where the defense is. I like where the running game is. And then I can just get dink and dunk passes. If you get that formula, that's enough to get you somewhere until you can get the vertical game going. So I'm happy. I'm still trending upward for this team after yesterday's loss.
Casey's back on Friday with one thought on every game. One thought on every game is in the books. Casey Joyner. Check him out in The Athletic and in the Philadelphia Inquirer. All right, pal. We'll talk to you Friday.
Thank you, man.
All right, there it goes. One thought every game. Casey Joyner here on the Sports Bash is brought to you by Cape Regional Health System. For a healthier life, call 609-463-CAPE. It is the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. You can download the free mobile app in the Apple Store or Google Play and message us through your app thanks to First Bank of Sea Isles. Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN is brought to you by Jenkins for heating and air conditioning installation service and maintenance, plumbing, or drain cleaning service. Call 609-641-6440 or jenkinsplumbingandheating.com. All right, when we come back, Jeff Kerr breaks it all down. Today we learned some big injury news, plus Zach Ertz on the COVID list. How do the Eagles fix those issues? Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. Plus, what did Jeff Kerr think about the game Nick Sirianni had on Sunday? Was that the biggest problem, or was there something else that stood out? We'll ask Jeff Kerr from CBS. Coming up next here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill, at Mike Gill Show on Twitter. Follow me there. And, of course, you can download the free mobile app in the Apple Store or Google Play. And if you want to play in this year's ShopRite LPGA Pro-Am with Pete Thompson, me, and a LPGA professional, you could be the fourth member of our Pro-Am team. All you need to do is go to our website, 973ESPN.com, or download the free mobile app to enter. And all the directions are right there. We'll announce the grand prize winner, the fourth member of our foursome, on Friday's edition of the Sports Bash during Happy Hour Friday with the PT at 4:40. So enter now. Go to our website, 973ESPN.com, and you could be a part of our LPGA foursome on Wednesday, September the 29th. That is when we will play. We'll give you all the details. You can go to our website, 973ESPN.com now to get all the updated information. So, real quick, a couple of loose ends to tie. Zach Ertz has been placed on the COVID list, according to Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network. Ertz is vaccinated, so there's a chance that he could still play on Monday night as long as he has no symptoms and 2 negative tests 24 hours apart. So that is the latest on Zach Ertz. So let's get the latest on everything else. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, covers the NFL. He is with us now as we have a laundry list of things to kind of go over. Jeff Kerr, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Mike. Doing pretty good. It's definitely an overreaction Monday, to say the least.
Well, let's overreact to some things. But first, Jeff Kerr is brought to you by the expert solar team of New Jersey, EMT Solar and Roofing and Solar Guardians. Start your solar journey today by learning more. Visit ESPNsolar.com. All right, let's take care of some loose ends here. First off, Brandon Graham out for the season, Jeff. How do they compensate for the loss of Graham? How do you see them working in the defensive end spot?
I definitely think it's going to be Josh Sweat and Derrick Barnett, Mike. I don't think you rotate those two or keep them on their side of the field. I think you got to play both of them. You have to see what you have in Derrick Barnett, obviously. You already know what you got in Josh Sweat. You signed him to a 3-year, $40 million deal for this reason. So Josh Sweat is going to get his reps. Derrick Barnett is going to get his reps. I think you rotate Milton Williams in there at defensive end, get him some more playing time, put Ryan Kerrigan in there. Losing Brandon Graham is huge for this football team, and Nick Sirianni said today, I said yesterday, he's the heart and soul of this football team. And it's a shame. It really is a shame because – you know what? Their pass rush definitely took a hit yesterday.
Yep, no doubt. Brandon Graham done for the year, Achilles tear. I don't know. I mean, I guess Graham will be back, but, man, he's going to be 34 years old coming off an Achilles tear. We might not see the same Brandon Graham ever again.
Yeah, and hopefully he gets to finish his career with the Eagles. I assume he will. Eagles will probably try to restructure his deal, but it's a shame because he was really good the last year. He was really good the last couple years. He just seems to be getting better with age. Seemed like the only thing that could ever slow him down was an injury. And you play in the 161 of the last 162 games, that's where those Achilles tears. That's where it sucks. Like you don't hope something like that happens to a guy like Brandon Graham, but he's been through adversity throughout his career, Mike. He'll bounce back from it.
Yep, we'll see what the future holds for Graham. Remember, they did redo that contract. They gave him an extension, so he is signed through next year as well. All right, coming up next, you've got Brandon Brooks now. He has been diagnosed with a pec strain, which is different from a torn pec, which means there's a possibility that Brooks does return at some point, but it looks like he's going to go to injured reserve, which means he could miss at least 3-4 weeks and maybe even longer. But I guess the positive is he's not done for the year.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? You just got to get through this tough stretch of games. Honestly, if you had to pick when Brandon Brooks is going to get hurt, I guess you would pick now, right? You wouldn't pick toward the end of the year when you need him against the NFC East. They're going to miss him on Monday night against the Dallas Cowboys. I will say that, Mike. They will miss him there, but Landon Dickerson's got to be better. He allowed 5 pressures, 4 hurries. He was credited, I think, with allowing that sack to Nick Bosa. I know Nick Bosa got the sack, but by PFF, I guess he was credited for that sack. He just wasn't – he was thrown to the fire yesterday. And, he's a rookie. He's going to get better. He's a good player. But we'll see how he does with a week's worth of practice. He's no Brandon Brooks yet, but he has the potential to be.
Yeah, break this down a little bit. So Mailata, everybody's getting on your case because you tweeted out Mailata's stats. No pressures, no quarterback hits, no sacks. Well, the video clearly shows that Bosa pushed him back, but he wasn't credited with giving up the sack, even though Bosa got the sack. How's that work?
I told the one guy whose tweet went viral who, and again, I don't want to get into the conversation, but I said, that's a great angle, and you're not wrong, but please show the entire play, not just the highlight. And, from that side, I'm like, show the other side of the line. And he told me I didn't know what I was talking about. And I showed him the actual play, and he's like, oh, wait. I'm like, yeah, so you just went viral for no reason. So I love Twitter. But, yeah, so what it looked like was, at least from my vantage point, I initially felt before I saw the play, and again, I watched the game twice before this, and I felt, okay, Bosa's going into the C gap. Mailata kind of lets his guard down a bit when he rushes from basically a linebacker spot. That's a no-win situation for a left tackle. Now I'm thinking, what's PFF thinking here? Because, again, I don't think PFF is gospel by any means, or, I'm not really that crazy about him, but I do kind of like the context of him. So I rewatched the play again from the broadcast angle, from two more different angles in the All-22. That sack was pretty much the center and the right guard getting pushed into Jalen Hurts, and he had nowhere to go, and Nick Bosa was
he didn't have a chance to step up into the pocket because the pocket got thrown into his lap. That said, Bosa was the guy who ends up getting the sack. So I guess PFF looks at that and says, well, the sack wouldn't have occurred had the center and guard not got pushed back, even though Bosa got the sack. I guess I don't know. Mailata didn't. But that being said, even if Mailata gave up the sack, 33 pass blocking snaps, 0 pressures, 0 quarterback hits, 0 sacks. Even if he gave up the sack, the guy has been one of the top-rated offensive linemen in all of football through 2 games.
Yeah, and, it's funny. One of the Eagles writers, he does a lot of the film breakdowns on Twitter, Thomas Peterson. I got to give him some credit here. He's a big PFF guy, and he even said, he goes, why are we acting like Jordan Mailata is a terrible football player? Because he's not. And, everybody's like, oh, well, they're wrong. I'm like, he still had a good game. Like, it seemed like the more people saw it or, down the line, not instant reaction that people actually thought about. And 49ers fans even said the same thing. They're like, I don't know what Eagles fans are talking about. He played really well yesterday compared to what he was with. And it seemed like, when the rational people started talking, he really did play a good game, even if, PFF don't give him credit for that sack. Even if you did, like, Jordan Mailata played a really good football.
Well, I thought the offensive line in general played pretty well. I didn't have a lot of problem. I thought that the guy who had the rough day was Nick Sirianni. I mean, the play calls are one thing, but I thought more play design was the bigger problem.
I thought so, too. I thought it was play design. I think they definitely had a hit when Brandon Brooks got injured. Landon Dickerson didn't have that great of an afternoon yesterday. But again, we talked about it earlier, baptism by fire. But I agree with you. Nick Sirianni, some of those calls, I'm thinking, like, the Philly special 4th down play, I laughed. I'm like, come on, man. Like, this is the best you got. Like, you have Jalen Hurts as a running quarterback. Put the ball into the end zone like the Ravens did it with Lamar Jackson. She's to Patrick Mahomes. The Justin Herbert, he doesn't look like a fast guy, but he is. The Chargers do that with him. I don't understand why the Eagles just couldn't do that with Jalen Hurts 4 times. They would have gotten him once.
Yeah, the play on the Philly special, it didn't even appear that Hurts knew that he was supposed to go out for the pass. He was kind of standing there. They just did not have a route to run there. The one play on the inside, it looked like a pitch should have been made, but there was so much cluster that Hurts, I think, just decided not to pitch. So you had a couple of plays with not a lot of options inside that goal line. Now, that being said, Jeff, I also thought they took too many shots down the field. Last week, they didn't take any. This week, I thought they took too many.
Yeah, talk about cloud chasing, Mike. I mean, they were trying to go for every Twitter highlight known to man, just throwing the ball down the field. I'm like, look, I get the 49ers quarterbacks are beat up here, but what are we doing? Diamandre Leonore, he had a tremendous game, and he gave up the 91-yard pass to Quez Watkins. He still had a tremendous game. Josh Norman, I've been calling him Berg Toast since pretty much he left the Panthers. Look what he did against Devonta Smith yesterday. Devonta Smith is a non-factor, and that's what worried me, Mike. Once Devonta Smith kind of got covered, Jalen Hurts is like, okay, what do we do here? But Nick Sirianni didn't help him out either because you're taking deep shots down the field all day. Like, run 12 personnel, run 21 sweep, get your backs involved, get your tight ends involved. That's how you beat this defense.
Yeah, I know that Smith and Rieger, both guys, and Rieger, of course, had the touchdown catch that got pulled out because he stepped out of bounds. Both those guys had tough days. So why didn't they use Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert more?
That's what I would say. Like, they didn't even use him in the second half, and coincidentally, they removed the ball when they were getting it to him. But it's not like, look, Fred Warner's a really good linebacker, and he was covering one of them, but they weren't even running like 12 personnel that much. And I don't know, maybe they had to leave Dallas Goedert back down there to the block after Brandon Brooks got hurt. Again, I got to watch it. I probably have to watch this game again. I watched it twice. I'm still really confused on what the Eagles were doing. I don't know. I just feel like it was Nick Sirianni being a rookie head coach. I feel like if he's been in the league 3 or 4 years, I'd be really concerned. But overall, it's like, okay, Nick, after your initial 15, 20 plays, you didn't do much.
Yeah, the offense was very kind of stagnant all day long. Let me flip over to the defense. We got 17 points. You would think that's a winnable game. How did you think Jonathan Gannon did in week 2 against this 49er team?
Yeah, the defense got a lot of criticism too, and I felt it was unnecessary because because whatever, they didn't get pressure on Jimmy Garoppolo or whatever, and Jonathan Gannon. I heard the Jim Schwartz cloud again, and I'm like, come on, man! Like, this defense.
Well, you know what's going to happen because Gannon doesn't blitz.
No, he doesn't, and I don't really care, honestly. Most defensive coordinators don't blitz anymore. Steve Spagnuolo is really the only one who, in my opinion, who at least blitzes. Dan Quinn sometimes, but it's all about getting pressure now, and Jimmy Garoppolo just got rid of the ball quick, but this defense held their own. I know they let up a 16-play and 12-play drive that led to touchdowns, but you got to look at the end of the day. 49ers were the only team to score 40 points last week. And I know 7 were off a pick 6, but still, that's a lot of points. And the Eagles only allowed 17. They only allowed like 320-some yards. Wasn't a bad day overall. They're top 5 in yards allowed. They're top 2 in points allowed. It's 11.5 points per game. I don't know what else you want to hear. I think your defense has been more than fine, and honestly, it's the reason they're 1-1.
Well, we'll find out what they're made of with,
they got a test this week.
Test this week, but also with Brandon Graham out. Let's real quick touch on the Ertz. He's on the COVID list now. Apparently, he is vaccinated, which means I guess he could have a shot then to play on Monday night.
Yeah, he does. So it's 5 days, and you got to have 2 negative tests within 24 hours. So. Yeah, I'm not too worried about stats for Monday night. They got the extra day. He'll have a short week of practice, but I think he'll be good to go.
All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Now, obviously, Ertz has not had a big factor. You almost wonder if Ertz isn't there, do they utilize Goddard more instead of trying to appease both of them?
You would think, right? I think they go more 11 personnel. I think they kind of – and again, Dallas Goedert's had a really good career against the Dallas Cowboys, so I would go with Dallas Goedert anyway. And yeah, I think Dallas Goedert is going to be a huge part of the game plan Monday night. If you had Dallas Goedert on your fantasy football team, I would suggest playing him. If you don't, I would suggest signing him if you need a tight end. I think he's going to have a big game against them, and because Dallas isn't going to put Micah Parsons in coverage like they should. They're going to rush him. So I think that leaves an opportunity, a door open for Dallas Goedert to make some plays down the field.
All right, I want to get your thought on Watkins. He had the big catch in the game, obviously, and just how much more can he evolve in this offense?
Well, you gotta love the explosiveness, Mike. He had the 70-yard touchdown catch in the preseason, had the 91-yard catch. It probably should have been a touchdown. He's a big play threat, and I think teams are gonna watch out on film and say, okay, we gotta watch out for this guy, especially when he's on the football field. He can make a lot of big plays for you. So I think he's just going to get better by the week. He's only played like 7 or 8 career games and already has a 100-yard game to his credit, 2 catches, 117 yards. I think he ended up, if I'm not mistaken, he was like top 7, top 8 in receiving yards yesterday. So a pretty good day. And I think the potential is there for him to be a big play receiver for this football team going forward, especially when you got Devonta Smith and Jalen Reagor. I want to see Jalen Reagor make a play like that next.
Yeah, they've used Watkins in the bubble screen. Now, I didn't see a lot. Like, the bubble screen was kind of out of the offense yesterday. I thought they used it really well in week 1, and then I think they only did it 3 or 4 times yesterday.
And they barely used it, yeah. Maybe they're saving it for Dallas. I don't know. Maybe they felt San Francisco could read it better. Yeah, I was really confused by that. I thought we'd see more bubble screens. I thought we'd see more quick passes. Obviously, Jalen Hurts didn't go across the middle enough. He doesn't seem comfortable going across the middle. That's something he has to work on as a quarterback. I will say that.
All right. We got the Dallas Charger game yesterday, too. What'd you think of that? Ugly game, kind of a, much like the Eagles game, ugly kind of game. But I thought Dallas's defense, you got to give them credit, which is a questionable point for them. They stepped up on the road and got a big win.
Oh, they looked good yesterday. I'll say, they got after Justin Herbert a lot. Micah Parsons on the edge keep him on the edge. I mean, he can play middle linebacker. He can play Sam. He can play on the edge. You know, he can pretty much play anywhere on that defense. I think he makes that much of a difference for them. I knew their defense would be better this year. I didn't know how much, and I got to give credit to Micah Parsons. I got to give credit to DeMarcus Lawrence. I thought Jalen Smith played pretty well yesterday. Again, their cornerbacks look a lot better too. It's definitely a different Dallas defense than last year, and they were getting better toward the end of last year. But I think Dan Quinn took them up another level.
Yeah, there's no doubt they have better personnel. Now, you mentioned Parsons. It looks like they're probably going to end up keeping him in that defensive end role. You can't have him everywhere. You say, well, they need to put him in coverage. You can't have him. He's not Bugs Bunny, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can't bang first base, Bugs Bunny, second base, Bugs Bunny. No, you can't do that. You can't have two Micah Parsons on the field. So that's where Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch has to come around, and that's great if Micah Parsons can get to the quarterback and disrupt them enough. But what do you do when the quarterback beats you?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's interesting because I'm wondering if the Eagles, use more of Avery, to try to, unleash some more pass rushing situation. Now, you said, hey, you signed Josh Sweat. He only played 40% of the snaps again this week. So they didn't sign him to that deal and then unleash him. They still kind of suppressed his snaps too. So I'm really interested to see how they end up tackling this Graham loss here. And then real quick on Brooks, do you think Landon Dickerson will be the guy, or is it going to be Herbig or maybe even Jack Driscoll?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, Landon Dickerson was the guy they went with yesterday. So I assume they go with him. They use a second-round pick on him, and they think he's ready. He's ready. And I would go with Landon Dickerson again. I think between the three, I like all three, but I think Dickerson has the most talent. And why not put a rookie into the fire, right, Mike?
Well, he didn't practice much at all next to Lane Johnson, so maybe with a full week he might have better preparation. All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, 97.3 ESPN, covering the Eagles, and, of course, the Eagles lose 17-11. They fall to 1-1. They'll play the Cowboys Monday night, a week from tonight, and you can hear that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Jeff, we'll talk to you Wednesday, man.
Yeah, sounds great. It's going to be an interesting week. The Monday games are weird to me, Mike, because I watch Monday Night Football, but I'm not religiously tuned in. I'm never sure which broadcast to watch. Should I watch Peyton Manning or should I watch Steve Levy? And maybe I'll go on ESPN Plus. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what I do.
The Kerr remote will get a workout tonight.
You know what? I have 3 TVs in here for a reason, so maybe I'll watch all of them.
CBS with the big budget. They gave you 3 TVs over there. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. All right, brother. Take care.
CBS. See you.
There he goes. Jeff Kerr back on Wednesday to break it all down here on the Sports Bash. And Jeff Kerr's appearance is brought to you by EMT Solar and Roofing and Solar Guardians. Start your solar journey today. Learn more by visiting ESPNSolarDoctors.com. All right. What do you mean you don't know how to watch the football game? Just turn it on and watch it. No, he's right, because that Manning thing is fun. They got to do a little bit better job with the audio. We'll see what, last week they pulled out Travis Kelce, Russell Wilson, Charles Barkley. I mean, how do you top that? Right? Who's going to come on this week? And Russell Wilson was in overtime. Yeah, Russell Wilson got an overtime game. This week you got the Lions and Packers. Are they doing the Manning broadcast? Because it's not for all of them, right? Not for all of them. Right. All right, well, if you haven't seen it, you should definitely tune it in. I don't know if you can watch the whole game that way. It is a little, it's a little wonky sometimes. Tomorrow night, we've got 2 baseball games this week that have a lot to do with the pennant race. San Diego and San Francisco, Tuesday and Wednesday right here on 97.3 ESPN. Thursday night football, and then Saturday, we've got Notre Dame and Wisconsin, followed by the Yankees and Red Sox and West Virginia and Oklahoma, and then a triple header on Sunday, followed by the Eagles and Cowboys. I'm back with the calls of the game from Merrill Reese coming up next. All right, let's wrap up today's show. But first, before we get out of here today, Sports Bash is brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike in Egg Harbor Township. This was a big play in the game. Merrill Reese, Eagles Radio Network. Huge play in the game. If the Eagles get that one, they're at least up 10-0. That's on top of the fact that they didn't score when they had the ball inside the goal line. But that touchdown there would have put them up 10-0 in the game. Rager's got to do a better job. This is another big play in the game. Merrill Reese on the Eagles Radio Network. Well spoken there by Merrill Reese. That is called stupid, and it happens way too many times. Derrick Barnett, and then, of course, the next play after that, they get another penalty called, and they end up kicking a field goal there to make it 17-3, and unfortunately, the Eagles were not able to get back in that one. One other play that really stood out here. Let's see how Merrill Reese called this one on the Eagles Radio Network, 97.3 ESPN. And the play clock hit 0-0 there. Big play in the game. That one iced it, though. But could you imagine if they threw a flag for delay of the game? They had to move back 5 yards. It's 3rd down and 6 now instead of 3rd down and 1. So much to unpack from that game. Josh has you for the next hour. Mike Clay will join him at 6:20 to break it all down on game night, followed by Monday Night Football right here on 97.3 ESPN. Coming back tomorrow, right here on the Sports Bash, I'll give you who's in and who's out after 2 weeks of NFL football. Plus, it's a Tuesday with Thompson. The PT's here. Have a great night, everybody.